Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show, bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Recording live in studio, here's Nick and Matt.
Episode 160, 160. It's been a long time coming, 160.
Yeah.
We've arrived.
I know.
And it's not even a Monday night.
Yeah.
Actually, it feels like a Monday night, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
It's got this weird feel to it.
I kept thinking today was Wednesday all day today. I don't know why, but I have my days kind of off by one right now.
That is weird.
Yeah.
But it has to do with the show. Everyone's clocks are messed up. I see the chat already saying Monday didn't feel the same. We apologize, but the way it worked out is I was down at USDGC with my two oldest boys, and it ended up being 15 hours on the road to get back on Monday. I left Monday morning, 15 hours on the road. I wouldn't have made it in time. It would have been stressful to try to make it in time. And in turn, Ben wasn't even around in studio.
Nope.
He's on the top of a mountain somewhere.
I was the highest mountain in Massachusetts, Mount Greylock. It's just what we do every Columbus Day.
Most people probably call it a hill, to be honest, outside of Massachusetts.
Yeah. No,
It's a mountain, I know.
It's still a mountain. It's not that tall.
Oh, and we have
Oh,
Evan here.
oh,
Wait,
oh,
what?
It's a
Hey,
hill.
what's up?
I don't know if he was unmuted because of that.
It's
He probably
not.
was.
It kind of has a round top, but
He
it's very
was.
steep. You can ski down it. I'm pretty sure there used to be trails on it.
Oh, really?
I think I would call it a mountain personally.
I
But
mean,
it's not like
it's an official
it's
mountain.
not like Mount Elbert in Colorado being 14,000 feet. You
If
know,
you're
or
from the
Whitney in
West Coast.
California.
If you're from the West Coast, you come out here, you call them hills. But you're right. They are mountains. They are mountains.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it's still
different.
small when you look at like Mount Washington, which, by the way, got snow today in New Hampshire. So
That sounds awful.
So as you can
tallest point in my state's better than the tallest point in your state.
probably tell, the rest of the show we're going to be talking about mountains. So if you expected disc golf, just kidding.
I say, if we're talking about mountains the whole time, I'm just going to go home, go to bed. I don't know anything about any of the mountains. I just know I've skied a couple of them.
I would have a fun 2 hours. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie, but I'd rather talk disc golf still.
Yeah.
So I was down at USDGC, and that was a surprise. I didn't let the show know last week. That was a surprise to my two oldest kids. It was literally wake up Wednesday morning. They're ready for school. And I go, hey, do you want to go play a cool new course? They're like, yeah, that'd be great. And I said, how about Stafford Woods? Now, Stafford Woods, if you heard recently, is in jeopardy of getting canceled. I don't know what you want to call it.
Oh, also, I don't know if you said this, episode 160, presented by Cosmic DG. Sorry.
we go.
Totally.
That's perfect.
This is just our off day. Anyways, but episode 160 is presented by Cosmic DG. They were actually down at the USDGC. Matt, I don't know if you get a chance to go check them
I'll
out.
definitely talk about it.
So, anyways, keep it going.
No, that's good. And so Stafford Woods, he brought up Cosmic because Cosmic Dave there, that's the like home course, if you will, for them. They actually just ran the Cosmic Open like the weekend prior, so 3 days before. So the course was looking spectacular. But I told my kids, you want to go play Stafford Woods? They said, yeah, kind of questioning, like, that's a ways away, Dad. And I said, yeah. And then after that, you want to drive a little further, maybe past Baltimore somewhere, and we'll get a hotel and we'll stay overnight. And they're like, why would we do that? And I was like, because we can wake up, drive down to Rock Hill, and spend the week viewing USDGC. And my oldest son goes, deal. And so away we went, literally. Like, it's got to be weird being them. If you've ever been surprised before, you have like in your mind kind of like a week planned out. And then next thing is just like, you're like, what are we doing? We're in the truck now, driving down, enjoying a week. So hotel was great. We're in the same hotel as a lot of the players, just randomly. Didn't try to plan that one out, but the event, let me just give a shout out to the crew there down at Rock Hill. JP, Jonathan Poole, Innova has been the original founder of this event. He's now in partnership, hired, actually hired. I'm not doing quotes for hired. Sorry, Chad Sullivan, who is starting to take on a lot of the reins of like being the in-between firewall to JP, if you will. So like problem man, players go to, all that kind of stuff. JP is kind of like the man that sits on the throne, if you will. But Chad hooked me up, and I will tell you what, that event, this is going to be a big take. We'll have to revisit after, because we're going to get HOLYN HANDLEY here in about 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll do a recap after HOLYN. But USDGC and Throw Pink combined, it's weird. That's a whole nother conversation too. Like it feels like the women's USDGC. But USDGC, I'll just include all of that combined, is the best disc golf event tournament combo that I have ever been a part of. Experience is extremely high when you combine those two together. The viewing options are unlimited there. They could add thousands more. You'd have to get creative with how like you spectate. I don't see a full 5,000 person gallery walking down some of these roads, but I can see the roads getting filled with predetermined seating and all that stuff. It is too much for me to say right now, except that the experience level is extremely high. It's the way that they put it and the way that they want to promote it. And I heard this at the ceremony, the award ceremony from JP himself, is that they are putting on the players event, like not the players, the fans. Like this is for the fans, the people's major, the idea of throwing a massive party for everybody around disc golf. And that is all I experienced from the last putt. They throw on a huge stage. They have a band just start playing. I'm talking the fog machines, the lights, the massive venue of what they call the Village. I think it was, I'm going to get the numbers wrong now, over 50 different vendors there and a massive like festival fair environment. Huge. I could go on and on about the professionalism, elite status of this event. If my schedule allows, I would love to go to this event over and over and over. It was a vacation experience that me and my kids will never forget. And the way that I think, as my title's an innovator, it means you can always do better. This was their 25th anniversary, but I have it on record as they're not going to sit on their hands stoked that they have the best event. They're going to figure out how to be better every single year. So, I could go on and on. Did you see Hole 7's viewing area?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures, and you and I were talking about it pre-show. It's kind of wild because I don't remember exactly the last time I was down there. Maybe 2019. Maybe I think at this point it's been a long time actually. My first year that I went down there was 2016. I think I went for a couple days in 2017, and then maybe 2019 as well. Went down there for a little bit, and definitely wasn't as big of a spectacle as it is now. And I think back then I was just going to watch a couple players and watch them play and then kind of get out of there. But now at this point, with all the extra activities that they have going on there, I think one of my favorite things about GMC is the Fall Fest that they do on Friday and Saturday. It's the live music, it's the vendors, it's the food trucks. And so any sort of tournament that has anything sort of like this, I think sounds incredible. Which means next year, Matt, we'll have to block off our schedule, make sure we get on down there.
Absolutely. In fact, I don't want to spill anything over here, but they did have like podcast row, maybe similar to something you'd experience at the Super Bowl, like radio row. They did invite us down for that, and I apologize to the fans who would have loved to see us there, but it wasn't going to work out for this year. Not because they didn't want us down there, but because we're too expensive. No, not really. But there's a lot of things at play with a 4-person crew here and not living that close. And so we're talking about next year and the opportunities that exist there. With that being said, before we move out of this, I have to say, wow, thank you to every single fan of the show that came up and said hi. I once said that Westy Acres, I was like, Nick, you go out to Westy Acres in Massachusetts, we got a fan pocket over there of like crazy awesome fans, and it's true. And then we're at MVP Open, and like people are like, oh, like, wow, Nick and Matt, we love you, which is always so humbling to us. And I went down to USDGC. It blows away every event I've ever been to, including the World Championships and everything. And the fans of our show, nonstop, fist bump, fist bump, fist bump, love the show, to the point where, Nick, I'm sitting at hole 14, like just taking it in as a pure spectator with my 2 boys. People just walking by down these roads constantly. Hey, love what you're doing. Keep doing it. There's people around us that don't know who we are. This one guy gets up And he comes around the front and he stands there and he looks at me and he goes, "Can I shake your hand?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't even know who you are, but everybody keeps saying hi to you, and I think I'm missing out on something." And it's just so cool. Like, there's sincere, genuine fans that come up and say hi. And I actually had a moment of reflection yesterday while driving, last night, and this morning. And I mean this sincerely. The fan interaction with those who say, like, "Keep doing it. We love what you're doing. Keep it up." That is why I'm going to keep doing it.
Mhm.
There have been a few times I wanted to give up. It's a lot of work. But that interaction, not because we're important, but because somebody else is valuing the product, is why I want to do it.
Yeah.
So extremely awesome. Guys, move into a few other simple topics. For some reason, I got to get not for some reason, I got to get HOLYN HANDLEY here lined up. So you guys want to take a few topics?
Sure.
USDGC. Go ahead and give us something, Evan. Maybe throw pink or USDGC, and I'll get HOLYN worked on here.
All right. Well, let's start with USDGC. That was the major, although Throw Pink is a fantastic event, but we'll talk about it more with HOLYN. Kyle Klein, as you know by now at least, he takes it down. It's his first MPO major of his career. He now becomes the fourth first-time winner in the last 5 MPO majors, which is pretty incredible if you ask me. This little bit of a stretch we're on. The only non-first-time winner in that stretch is Isaac Robinson, who was also a first-time winner in this stretch when he won Champions Cup earlier this year. He won Worlds, of course, being his second. So really, the last 5 major winners had 0 combined major wins at this time last year, plus like a week or two. That's pretty incredible. And if we're talking about a new era in disc golf, I think that's telling more than a lot of things. Kyle Klein also wins 30 G's from this tournament, which is insane that we're at this level. That seems kind of normal for winning, at least a few of the majors. I think Worlds was the same price point. This is 30 G's, and then we have the Tour Championship being 40,000 next week. He won Waco earlier this year, his only other elite or major win. Of course, that was from the Chase card. A very exciting finish. He earned $7,500 for that win. So this win was 4 times that amount, which is kind of incredible that you can win 4 times as much as an elite event at just one other event, but of course being a major. To denote, Kyle has won an AM major before. So it's always tricky whether you have to, specify that it's his first pro major win or not. I understand people who just call pro majors, and if it's not, you have to put other classifications in front of it. But just to share that he did win US Amateurs in MA1, which is of course an amateur tournament. So he has a major win there in 2019. That was up in Michigan. This is his 3rd top 10 in a major this season, and in 7th of his career. And he's done pretty well at USDGC. I don't have it right in front of me. I thought I did. But of course, he lost the playoff in 2021 to Paul McBeth. He charged from the Kyle Klein charged from the Chase card, almost got that win. He's done very well otherwise at USDGC. His first major top 10 was here in 2020, which was less than a year after he first accepted pro cash, which is pretty interesting. Quickly to name a few other people, Bradley Williams finishes 2nd. That's his best major finish of his career. Isaac Robinson ties for 3rd with Simon Lizotte. Isaac Robinson now has 3 podiums on the year to add to his 2 wins, which is very incredible. Simon Lizotte gets his first podium since 2018 Kona Piste. It's been a long time coming for him.
Good for him.
It's also been one of his best USDGCs of his career. He shot his best round ever this year at USDGC. And I think he put on Instagram said he shot under par for all four rounds for the first time ever. So, hey, Nick, that was your lock.
That was my guy to win it. Yep.
I kind of, I was like, he might be, he was on my drop short list. So I'm thankful I did not pick him because Simon had a great finish. And then to round out the top 5, Calvin Heimberg gets yet another top 5. He has finished in the top 5 at every major except for Champions Cup, being 16th, and he's on a crazy good top 10 streak also since Champions Cup. Joel Freeman finishes 5th, who's also done super well. He's now had 5 straight top 15 finishes at USDGC. Want to go one more note. I mean, we'll talk about later for the pop lock drops as well, but Nicholas Antala gets a tied for 7th place finish. He was the runner-up last year, a lot of hype going into this year, and he gets another top 10 finish at a major.
Yeah. So I'm glad, yeah, my picks I felt like were pretty far off, so I'm excited to see how it plays out here at the end. All right, we do have lined up and in our virtual green room a big time winner. I don't know how else to introduce her, but we're just gonna do a big time winner. Let's go ahead and welcome to the show, everybody. None other than HOLYN HANDLEY. Whoa, that's cool. No transition tonight, Ben. But hey, what's up,
How's it
HOLYN?
going?
I don't know.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. It is great to have you, HOLYN. We're really excited. We have been, and I told you this when I met you on the T-pad for the showcase, like the final showcase distance. I said, we've picked you quite a few times for events to win, and we've been thinking, when is it going to be? When is it going to be? Yeah, I'll leave it at that. We're excited to have you on eventually, and here it is. So congratulations. Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. Let's just get right to it. What does this mean to you? You've been playing for a while and now you got it.
Yeah, I mean, I fully kind of expected I would get a win this year. I'll be honest, I didn't think it would take this long either. But I mean, it feels, it kind of feels good to get the first one. I kind of feel like that I've put that pressure on myself, and so I feel a little bit of a relief now that I've done it. Now that kind of the monkey's off the back, so to speak. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, and so I know that you and Ella had a little deal where it was like, hey, who gets it first gets to dye the other person's hair. Ella told us that in studio, but she's told it everywhere else too. And she won up at the Discmania Open, but she feels like that maybe didn't count, I guess is what we're going to say. Discmania Open.
Yeah, so we made this bet actually almost exactly a year ago. We made it right after the Pro Tour finale last year, and that was when we talked about like the specifics of it. And we said no silvers.
Okay.
Just because sometimes they're highly competitive and sometimes there's like 10 people there.
Absolutely.
And so we said no silvers, but we said throw pink would count because that's certainly going to be a really competitive field. So that was predetermined.
It was a very competitive field, and most people consider this the same level as a major. And I don't know if that gets old or sick. You're sick of hearing that, but how do you treat this event?
I mean, in my mind, I think it's equivalent to like to a major. It did feel a little weird there, being on stage with Kyle Klein and like signing all these autographs and like a special session and stuff. And like we just did the same thing or the equivalent thing, playing 4 rounds at Winthrop and beating, a field that had to qualify. And then he's called a major winner and I'm not. It does seem a little bit weird, although I understand why. Like, it would also be a little weird for us to have an extra major when we have U.S. Women's, and I don't want to see U.S. Women's go away. I think that's a really special event that I want to see us keep.
U.S. Women's as in the traveling major for U.S. Women's like it is right now? You want to see that kept?
Yeah, I think, I mean, traveling major or not, it's more the fact that you get all of the other female divisions there. If you're a woman in disc golf, there's a good chance most of the events that you play, you don't even have a full card. And so it's really cool from that aspect to see hundreds of women come together and play an event. And then also, you get access to the touring pros that you just don't get at other events. So, I'm getting to just casually talk to juniors after like a practice round or talk to masters players or AM players in a way that I just don't get to do when I'm on tour. Because when I'm on tour and I get to talk to fans, it's like for a few seconds while they're grabbing an autograph and then it's done. But getting to actually sit there and have like longer conversations with people is really cool.
No, definitely.
Would you be for Throw Pink being a 5th FPO major? I think the LPGA does the same thing where they have 5 majors where the men only have 4. We disc golf as a whole kind of fought for 4 majors for a while, and now we're at there. Do you think it would be good to jump to 5 and have Throw Pink be the 5th to also keep U.S. Women's a major?
Yeah, I would rather see that than see Throw Pink just fully replace U.S. Women's. I think both of them this year, both of the crews that put those events on did a really good job of making it feel like a major, and the payouts were like a major. The competition was like a major. You can kind of just call it what it already is. And I'm not just saying that because I won one. But,
just call it what it is. Yeah, so HOLYN, I was down there, and I actually have a similar feeling to you with seeing Kyle and yourself on stage. You get treated the same at this venue, if you will. Like, you are getting treated the same, equivalent level. And so that's where that weird, weird quote, feeling is coming from, because you're getting that experience. You're going up against the same level of competition in FPO at the highest level as the MPO is at the highest level. So I congratulate you on that win. I think everyone values their wins based off of the field in most cases. And I think there's nothing to be taken away from this one. Can you describe your heart rate and your nerves? We'll get to finishing out round one, but let's just get to the victory. So you're playing off, and especially hole one putting. Like, I was there, like with everybody else packed up against those fences trying to see what happened. And you and Kristen both went to circle 2. And what was your heart rate like going up to that putt? You looked really confident, but what were you feeling?
Honestly, I was more nervous on the tee. I felt
Okay.
like all day my putt had been very, like, the stroke was looking very good. It was every single putt I had that day, it felt like it was just hitting the center of the chains. And I just had what I would argue a scarier putt, just a second ago on 18 to force the playoff.
So tell us about 18
honestly,
then. What was the feeling on 18's putt?
Yeah, that one, it was interesting because, like, compared to the throws, like how long it took me to get up to the green, like it kind of felt like, oh, I got this putt.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it was just at the edge of the circle. It was a putt I'd practiced, a putt I'd had earlier in the tournament on that hole, and had no problems with. And it's almost the kind of situation where that, knowing that you have to make it, it's either you make it and you continue, or you miss it and you're done. It almost makes it easier, because there's no question of like, oh, should I have laid it up? Should I give it a softer bit? There's nothing to do but fully run that putt. And then, getting ready for the playoff, I kind of told myself that I didn't really have anything to be nervous about, because I'm the one who came from the chase card. I'm not the 2-time world champion and the world number 1 who's going into this playoff. I'm kind of the underdog here. So, like, if anyone should be nervous in that situation, I would think it should be Kristen. And that kind of helped me settle in and start to feel kind of normal.
Wow. I was just going to say, like, everyone uses their mind tricks or whatever they want to do, but it sounds to me like you convinced yourself, or you just were legitimately like, hey, this is something, that I'm not nervous about. But you step up to hole 1, you said you were nervous there, you attempted the putt, Kristen attempted hers, both missed. Let's go to hole 17, extremely famous hole for ruining people's rounds. How did you feel going into 17?
Actually, I was really glad that I was going first, because I think I've got some prior experience with trying to do an island hole playoff, and I really do think there's a huge advantage to going first, because my goal was to put it at a spot that I was trying to find like a compromise between really safe but also a really, really makeable putt. So I was trying to get it to about that 30-foot mark. And then, I feel like I had that shot pretty dialed all week. I parred it every single round. I have like my spot off in the distance, throw my zone really hard and high and flat, and it always lands in bounds. And I did that, and I was able to put it about 30 feet right where I wanted, knowing that Kristen would kind of have a decision to make of, does she want to just try to make it safe, knowing that I've got a very runnable putt, or does she want to try to park it? And then in my mind is, if she's outside of me, she has to act first. If she makes her putt or runs her putt, I've got the decision then of like, either I have to make it, or I can decide if I want to push to the next hole. And then if she does manage to land in bounds closer than me, I can just assume she's going to make it. And again, just run the putt. There's no decision to be made. So yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking there.
And then I heard your reaction post win. Your jaw dropped when Kristen threw out of bounds. She was trying to, my understanding is, overcorrect for how she had played it previous holes on 17. And she overcorrected and went OB, and your jaw dropped, you said. Did you let yourself celebrate at all in that moment of OB? Not in her loss, but in maybe your win? Or did you say, I got to wait till she throws that drop zone?
I did a little bit, because I was like, I've seen her run some, like she's going to pull that harp out and just like whip it at the basket. And I know she's really accurate at that shot, but I did kind of start to feel like the choked up kind of bit, because I knew like that was probably going to be it. Like, even if she did make it from the drop zone, I've got a runnable putt here. In my mind, like, I was exactly where I wanted to be, where I could make that if I needed to.
Yeah, I mean, just ask Paul Macbeth. Worlds out in Utah. He thought maybe it was over, and James threw it in. So yeah, Then, but when she missed your layup, I liked the little like potential roll away just to scare everybody? Was that,
Yeah,
I mean,
well-
was that a little bit too much energy in that layup in your mind? Like maybe I just a little too
maybe.
much.
Yeah, if we go back to 17 during the round, you know, I was further away and I laid up and I put it to like just outside the bullseye, which is normally fine. But I pulled that putt just a little bit right. You know, Missy kind of made fun of me after that of like, don't be doing that now. Where like I almost just missed it from super short. So I was like, nah, just put it on the pole. I didn't really mean that literally.
Yeah.
But, that's just how dialed that was. Put it on the pole, put it on the pole.
Who remembers here, anybody, Holland included, do you remember Calvin's attempted like light putt that ended up kicking up and rolling OB to like kind of take the win opportunity away from him? Was that last year or the year before?
At this tournament?
Yeah.
I thought that was a couple years ago.
I think
Maybe
that was
it
the
is.
rain year. Was that 2020?
Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
year
I
that
think
he
that's
was.
2020.
Wow. Time flies. Holy
Yeah, no
cow.
kidding.
Yeah, right.
It's been 3 of them since then.
Holland, I like speaking of playoffs here because obviously we had the playoff. You've been in a playoff before at roughly this level back at DDO earlier this year. Was DDO? Can you say it as like a learning experience for Throw Pink? Like, were you more settled going into this playoff because of that one, or was that like not even in your mind? Like, just talk us through that experience.
Oh, I definitely thought of DDO right before stepping up on 17. Because I was like, all right, we're playoff. We got an island hole. And then I was like, it's going to be different this time. Because what happened with the DDO playoff is I didn't have the disc I wanted. I had chucked it into the water during the round because I wanted to throw an Athena. And so I actually disced up. And maybe in hindsight, I should have just gone down to a buzz and thrown it really hard right at the basket. I know I've talked to Brian Earhart about this a little bit because he was always like, why don't you just throw a mid-range on that hole? But yeah, I just put it too high and too inside, didn't really give it a chance. And so that was kind of what I remembered is like, step one, make the island. And then step two, trust your putt.
So did that add more nerves to this playoff, or did it kind of calm you because you knew, you could just make the right decision here at Throw Pink instead?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like strengthened my resolve, if you will. And the nice thing about, hole 17's island versus the DDO island is like there's kind of the safe miss or to the right side's a little bit easier to do than just trying to because at DDO really the safe miss is to try and just jam it long, which is what I did. And I just, completely missed the island anyway. So I think in some ways it's a little bit of an easier shot for me. And then in other ways, I was just determined to not do the repeat mistake.
Does winning in a playoff against the world's current, really undisputed right now best FPO player, and maybe you would dispute that, that's fine. But does that have any more significance to you than just winning in regulation? Like, had you just won right out? Like, is there anything to this that you're like, I went to head-to-head playoff with the current reigning world champion, and I beat her in a playoff? Is there anything to that, or would you have said no, just as big if I just won it outright?
I think just as big if I had won it outright, because either way, I came from 6 strokes back with I didn't even know how many strokes back I was at the end of the day. Like that's how not thinking about winning I was. I knew it was the kind of thing where it was going to take kind of a miracle day to do. So playoff or no playoff. It was just special as it was.
It seems to me because I heard you describe that in one of your post-round interviews, the idea of going into the round being like, I'd have to do this and they'd have to do this. It's one of those things where it's kind of out of your control fully. You know what you have to do. And that's how I heard you describe it. And I think it must have been at some point a surprise to you. I think you said you looked maybe coming into 17 or coming out of 17, and were you surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I knew something was up because the energy kind of changed. The crowd for the last few holes, I would do something very similar to someone else on my card, and then they would cheer a lot louder, and it was almost ramping up every birdie that I got. The cheers were just getting louder, and so I could tell something was up, and there was a chance maybe I'm close or I'm tied with somebody. I was shocked that it was 2 strokes. I didn't think I was going in the final hole with 2. I thought maybe I was 1 back, and it was okay, if you eagle, maybe something's up. But yeah, I was more shocked to see that I was in the lead at all.
Okay. So hole 18, you're stepping up. There was a little bit of a backup is how I remember it. I'm somewhere off the side walkway. I can't see clearly myself, but we know you're throwing. We're watching live coverage. By the way, USDGC, the property there at Winthrop, they've got these large LED screen TVs all over the place. It's actually incredible. So I'm able to stand up there and I'm like, I can't see over the gallery fully, but I know what's happening. Someone's throwing, and I can watch it here on coverage. Sometimes a little bit delay with like the reactions, like, ooh, and then you're like looking on the screen, you're like, what's happening? And so one of the oohs was your drive off of 18. It's now one of the shots been replayed so many times since it actually took place. And I mean, some people are going frame by frame and zooming, and it's amazing the amount of people that are reacting to this shot. Can you kind of walk us through from your perspective, from the drive to completion of the hole?
Yeah, so my thoughts going into the drive was, make sure you give it enough. Like if I throw that disc too soft and let it kind of saw off, I was getting a lot of rollaways in practice, so I knew it needed to come out flat and hard and kind of low, and then it would just kind of scoot up the hill. And I mean, out of my hand, I definitely pulled it a couple feet wider to the left than I really meant to. But I'm watching it start to hook up, and I'm thinking like, okay, I know this disc. I know if it hooks before it gets to those leaves, there's a good chance it may still land and bounce anyway. And of course it tickled some leaves. And what I saw from my perspective is I saw where it hit the ground, and I believe that was in bounds. And so I come off, Alexis goes and throws. And then when Alexis come off, so I asked her, I was like, do you think that hit the ground in bounds? She says, yes. There was a little more discussion with the card, as we were walking up. The marshal kind of stopped everybody and like double checked with my card mates, making sure that everyone was agreeing, before we walked all the way up there, that I had touched in bounds. And then looking at where the disc was in the water and seeing where that OB line was kind of like, yeah, there's a really good chance that hit in. And so card was in agreement, and that's kind of the end of it. I haven't looked at the video. I haven't gone frame by frame because in my mind, we don't get the benefit of video, right? We have to try to make the call from the perspective we have in that moment. And I trust my card mates to speak up if they thought they saw that the disc didn't cross in. And I just went with what the card said, and that's kind of that.
Yeah, and so quick reaction to something you said. Do you think you'll ever watch the video clip on that?
I don't know. Maybe sometime in the off season when I'm really bored, I'll go watch it.
Okay. Yeah. So how are you seeing any reaction to that shot right now? And how is it affecting you if you are seeing anything in relation to that?
Honestly, I'm kind of trying to avoid looking at it because like, while I've had time to think about it and reflect on it, and like, I'm fine with the decision that I made. And, after talking to other players, other people who were there, watching, because there was the card behind us, like, I don't believe I did anything wrong. I believe I was perfectly within the rules and I called it correctly based on what I saw. So I'm fine with my decision, but it's not great still to see people like coming at me on the internet. So honestly.
Oh. Now the internet gods have just shut her down.
Yeah, right.
That's interesting. We'll see if we can load it back up here. Okay.
There we go. You're back.
Can you hear us, Holland?
There we go. Yeah. I saw mine freeze for just a second.
Yeah, it literally froze for the same amount of time. But, and I don't think it was breaking up for anybody, but with you being confident in your decision, that's all you can be. And I can respect and appreciate that. And I'm excited for the fact that you won. And it's really cool to have you on here to interview you. So where do we go? Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, where do we go from here?
Well, I really want to bring up just kind of, and this is, obviously this is a huge moment in the sport of disc golf, and I don't want anyone to try to take away what your win was at that event. I mean, shooting the hot round, the final rounds, coming back from the chase card, doing everything that you need to do in the playoff to go on and win the event is nothing short of incredible in and of itself. But I think a lot of people, we see things on videos. We have a different angle. We have better viewing points than people do that are actually on the tee pad sometimes. When you are standing on 18's tee pad, it's a slight uphill elevation going. Can you see everything over, the water where there's a little bit taller grass? Can you see everything from your point of view on the tee pad? Or is there kind of obstruction to where it's like, oh, if I'm standing 20 feet to the right off the tee pad, I can see it a little bit better?
So where the disc hit the dirt, I can see that.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Because I think like I said, one of the biggest things is we all have the best angle point of view. We can freeze the video. We're not the NBA or the WNBA where we can just, say, hey, bring this up to the booth and have them do an official review on it. I think I was talking to Hannah Macbeth about this right after the round, and I think we're all spoiled with being able to see afterwards what actually potentially happened in people's minds, compared to what players are seeing on the card. But if you talk with your players about it, the benefit goes to the player, even though it's something that's too close to call. I think this issue has kind of gotten a little bit too big. And I think, you're doing it to where you're not really watching it. You're trying to kind of avoid it at this point. And I think that's a great idea. But yeah, I think the issue has kind of blown up a little bit bigger.
We're gonna hash this off on the Nick and Matt show after the interview here. But where do you think you're going? Where do you think you're going to next, Holland? Like, this is a big win. Like, I know, again, we aren't calling it a major, but this is equivalent. And what's next? I mean, Worlds, Elite Series, just more wins, or do you have a goal in mind?
I mean, I'm gonna try to win every tournament I play.
There
really.
you go. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. We've got, my biggest focus right now is just this weekend Pro Tour finale. The course is sick. I love the changes that they've made, and I'm really looking forward to that.
The payout for that is it 40,000?
Is it?
I think
it's something like that.
I think it's 40,000 if you take it
40,000 to the winner, 22,000 to second place, and 14,000 to third place. You won a lot of money this weekend. Those are all more than you won at Throw Pink. So you set your career best with Throw Pink win. You could set a new career best with the top 3 finish.
True. I mean, Missy did it a couple years ago, so
absolutely
one of my favorite people to compete with. So let's see.
There you go. Yeah.
Do you think? And we ask a lot of players this questions. Is there such a thing as like momentum? And does this get a monkey off your back to say, or like where you now feel like you can actually perform better at the events that are close or tight, or where you're sitting back significantly in the field?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll let you know after this weekend. But I think because sometimes there are times where I'm practicing and I feel really, really good about a course, and then like you never really know how you're gonna feel until you get to the tee of hole 1 on round 1, because the nerves always hit in some way. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. So I think it's the kind of thing like I can't even predict how I'm going to feel come Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, if I'll just put it this way, no one's here to hear how I would feel, but I would imagine if I did what you did, coming back as much as you did, I'd be like, I'm never out of it, from here on out. Like, I've done it before. And so I think that's incredible to watch your performance do that. You seem to have a great season so far. We have one more event for you, at least as far as the championship's concerned. Is this your best disc golf year ever? I mean, you'd have to say yes, right? Like, where do you feel like it ranks compared to others even?
Well, I mean, it's only my second year on tour, and I've only been playing for 4 years. So yeah, I think it's pretty easy to say this is my best year.
Is the sky the limit? Do you feel like you have a lot more to offer as far as your skills and talents go?
Oh, certainly. I think, I mean, even just from the beginning of this year to now, I've got plenty of weaknesses that I can still like rattle off and work on. And I mean, that's what I'm going to do. Once the off season gets going.
Can you rattle off a few for
you want me to
us?
rattle them off?
Yeah, just rattle. Yeah, give us your list, your short list.
Yeah, I mean, number one's throwing with putters. So something I want to work on this off season is getting better, especially at straight shots, full speed all the way down to kind of those touchier shots. I think the short game has kind of been a pretty common thing that's kept me out of contention at times, where like I'm able to get in a good position off the tee and then I fumble the inside of 200 feet up shot. And so like that's something I'm continuing to work on, expanding my putting range. I feel I changed my putting stroke this season, and I think that was a really good move, and it's paying off now on the tail end of the season, but expanding that range into circle 2. And then just certain angles both on the backhand and on the sidearm that I'm just not super comfortable with, and I kind of avoid in tournament. So like, especially, forehand flex shots, I really avoid those unless I'm scrambling. But I think that's something that, so that angle control is something that I think could be a really good weapon in the future.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have an ultimate background?
I do not. That's Ella.
Okay. No, I know it's Ella. And for some reason, I was feeling like you kind of came out of that same background. So you have no Frisbee or disc experience before 4 years ago?
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
And this
Well,
is the first year technically that you've been on Discraft. This was a major bag switch going into the season. Oh, did we lose her?
maybe.
You can get-
Yeah, we
I think
did.
we lose her since he started talking.
We-
I didn't
we
want to
did.
interrupt you.
We
just in
did lose
case.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually. We'll see if she comes back. Where my question was kind of leading towards for the ultimate was like, I think isn't that largely self officiated too, rules wise? And I was going to
Yes.
ask her like if she appreciates that and like, or if she would rather something else.
Yeah.
Not to
We're going
belabor
to talk
that.
more about it.
Yes.
We're going to talk more about this.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
We want to
Holland, are
know
you
her
back?
salary. We want to know her contract when she comes.
There we go. Awesome.
When Holland comes back. No.
Yeah. So
Okay. So
I
go ahead.
think I was kind of asking just a minute ago, this is the first year that you've been on Discraft, elite team. You know, how has that switch been? How has the kind of Discraft family been treating you? Everything like that. How has a major bag switch gone into big decision making in your career?
Yeah, so that was a lot of questions there. So I've been very happy with how Discraft's treated me. I feel like they have a level of professionalism that's just kind of I haven't necessarily seen. And granted, I've only been in the game for a short period of time, but they really do have just another level of professionalism in the way that they treat their players that I really appreciate. I feel like, anytime I ask for something, they're so quick to get it for me. Like no questions asked, and they've been really great. And then going forward, going back to the bag switch, I feel like I handled it pretty well at this point. Like there weren't a ton of like one-to-one disc swaps really. I didn't try to approach it from that way. I more just like asked for a variety of things to try. And then as I was finding molds that I liked, trying to find like, stabilities and stuff that just accomplished the shots that I needed, and then kind of started to tweak my game and build it around that bag. Cause like if I look at my mid-range lineup, for example, like I was throwing a trust when I was over at DD, and a trust and a buzz aren't quite the same, and a trust and a buzz SS aren't quite the same, but with a buzz SS and a buzz in the bag, I can get the same shots, same shot shapes that I need. I just have to throw it like slightly differently. And at this level, like any professional should be able to do that, no problem. So it just took like a little bit of time to get used to it.
Yeah.
And it also helps that, Discraft has such a huge lineup, and because they're, manufactured here, it's easy for them to get me just a ton of different plastic and do like specific runs kind of for what the team needs. Yeah. And my teammates were also super helpful. Like Corey and Missy were really helpful in kind of telling me some good runs to try. Kind of when we did like the whole team thing down in January, that was really helpful in kind of finishing the bag, so to speak.
Okay, so do you feel like how long is your contract set with Discraft right now? I know you just got over there, but like how long is that?
Yeah, as a 1 year.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So at the end of this year, you're renegotiating or moving on. Is that true?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to ask, because if you had multiple years, I was going to say, do you feel like you got a good deal or they got a good deal? But it sounds like you guys did the deal probably correctly. And now, are you going to use any sort of agency, or is this going to be purely you and Discraft or whoever negotiating straight person to person?
Yeah, I'm with Schaefer Sports Management.
Okay.
So Blake will take care of all of that. I don't have to think too much about it.
Nice.
Awesome. Shout out to Blake. That guy, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
And he did my taxes.
He did mine too.
Perfect. We have something in common because it's definitely not how far we throw. You throw pretty far. And so, and you laughed at me. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, you got me.
I gotcha. So maybe I think I saw it posted, but to finish out the what am I thinking here? The bet that you made with Ella. What color did the hair get dyed?
It is pink. We dyed it Sunday night. She's got pink hair. It looks great. If you haven't gone and looked at either of our Instagrams, she looks amazing with pink hair. And also we practiced together. Her very first practice round since getting pink hair, she gets an ace.
Oh,
Look at that.
There's something to it.
Yeah, she is welcome.
So y'all need to watch out. Pink hair Ella. Pink hair Ella is dangerous.
Take down the tour championship.
That's
I've been saying it. I've been saying it all week. I think it might be Ella's week. Like I hope it's my week, but It might be Ella's week.
Oh man. So now it's over. She doesn't get to dye your hair ever now, right?
I mean, not unless we make another bet.
Okay. All right, good. It's over.
Oh, congrats to you on that one as well.
Yeah, dude, I didn't want to dye my hair, so
It was motivating.
You have a lot more of it than she does too. So I mean,
I know, because she's like, "Oh, whatever, I'll just cut it," and I'm like, "I'm not cutting this."
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
this
Right.
takes so long. I don't look good with short hair.
That's right. Do you agree that this event, as much as we've talked about prestige and how big it is and how it's treated like a major and all that, do you agree that did you get to participate in any of the activities there, or did you pretty much just leave? You saw the village, you saw the bandstand or the stage and everything that goes on there. Is this event massive or what?
Yeah, it's huge. I didn't hang around for any of the music or anything because honestly, after rounds, I'm usually like, if I get back to my trailer and I shower and I sit down, I'm not moving.
Yeah.
So I didn't do a whole lot. I did go over, and eat from the food trucks and go say hey to my sponsors who were vending.
Right.
And yeah, I mean it's massive. There's tons and tons of people there. There's tons of things to do. It's pretty sweet.
Do you feel like and I'm just looking like, not for affirmation, but I went down there and I've been to quite a few events. This has got to be the biggest event the U.S. has going on right now. And I don't necessarily mean biggest title. Obviously, Worlds is massive. But do you put any other events up against this?
I mean, Worlds had a lot. I don't think so, because like the other places didn't have like the big stage with the music. There have been some spots that had a lot of vending.
Yeah. And the
yeah,
people,
so.
the gallery size. I haven't even gotten numbers back on that. I gotta ask about that.
Yeah, no, the gallery was pretty huge. The gallery at Worlds was pretty huge.
Was pretty big.
Yeah,
it was pretty big.
It's such an epic.
Now, granted, I wasn't on the the final day lead card.
True.
Like I was at Worlds, so maybe my comparison's a little bit biased there. But I mean, yeah, they were a pretty massive crowd in both spaces, and I feel like at Green Mountain or at Smugs, especially like with how much room there is on hole 18, like you can probably see the crowd a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can only see so many of the people when I'm like walking up 18 at Winthrop or when I'm walking up 17 at Winthrop.
True.
So would have to get the metrics on that one.
Yeah, I was kind of using my one wheel to get around the property there at Winthrop, and I can tell you the crowds were packed on those roadways from 18 all the way down past 7. I mean, it's just all the way to 14, massive. So anyways, I just was looking for your perspective on how what you thought of the event. Massive event. I appreciate what the staff does down there. And off of disc golf just a little bit, you've been in the sport for 4 years now. What's something that you like to do? You said shower, sit down in the trailer and just not move. But like, what's something you do in that time? Is it reading, puzzles, video games, like sleeping? Like what's something you like to do besides disc golf?
I've been super into the new Zelda game. Not Breath of the Wild, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. So
okay.
I'm still rocking on that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a huge board game collection in the trailer, probably more than is reasonable to bring on the road, but we got a ton of them. So that's more probably in off weeks when we're hanging with friends and have a little more energy. Because like you'd be surprised at how much time like preparing for and competing in tournaments takes up. After tournament rounds, yeah, usually I'm like, I put the men's coverage on and I'll usually nap for like the first half and then catch the end of it.
Nice.
What's your number one board game right now? Like you're playing with new people and you're just like, hey, let's play a game. And it's the first one that comes to your mind that you want to do.
Oh man. Well, recently the one we've been playing is called Raw. So it's like a kind of a betting game or like it's like, you're trying to get combinations of tiles that get you kind of different points. And so you kind of take turns, everybody drawing from a bag and putting them in like a marketplace. And you can either choose to like draw or like say we're betting on this now. And so you're kind of trying to gauge like, do I try to conserve money? Do I try to like go for it and score points here? And then, when you're drawing stuff out of the bag, you can draw bad stuff too. I'm explaining it poorly, but it gets pretty wild actually.
And this is Raw like RA or?
Yeah, RA. We played it with
good to know.
Missy, Tom, and Ella while we were in the off week before Throw Pink started.
Yeah,
Nice.
and the last question I have here is Tour Championship's really the last event of the season. Are you planning to play any more events after that? Or are you just getting home and hanging out?
Yeah, we'll be doing, so we off season in Oklahoma. My boyfriend's family has a big ranch down there, and so we're gonna hit Oklahoma Open on the way home. We'll go through Tulsa, and then I'll have a week off at home, and then I'll go down to Dallas to do Veterans Park Open, because that's about half an hour from where my mom lives. So I'll go visit her and play that one too.
Nice. Very cool.
I had to kind of chuckle to myself as you said you were explaining the board game poorly, and I feel like that is true any time you explain a board game to anybody that they've never played. Every single time you're like, you just have to play it.
It's like trying to explain playing birdie with people.
Oh,
like
it's
new
horrible.
People. Yeah, it's awful to try to explain. It's like, let's just play and you'll get the gist of it.
So it sounds great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fantastic. I appreciate so much the fact that you took time to come on the show here, and we're privileged and honored to have you. And is there anything we missed that you'd like to shout out or talk about before you go? The platform's yours.
Oh, I mean, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
I'll ask some good questions, so I think I'm good.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate you coming on. Congratulations once again on a massive Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf
Absolutely.
Championship win. And then good luck at the Tour Championships. We will 100% be watching as the Nick and Matt show.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, we're going to make picks later of some sort. So is Holland making it into the Final Four?
Oh, dude, so my mom's
Kinda
flying
waiting.
in this weekend. My mom's
Ooh.
flying in this weekend, all right?
Okay.
I'm
Is she
making it
good
to the
luck,
final.
or is she like
No,
Nick
she's
Carl,
got.
where-
I can't have her show up on. Like, she's only gonna be here Saturday night and Sunday. So the only way she watches me play live is if I make it. So like, yeah, I'm making it.
No
To
That
the
is-
pressure.
That's some
All
big
right.
stakes.
We're
You
gonna
have
have
a
to be
stroke
talking about that
advantage.
later.
You have a 2-stroke advantage over the cut line. So
Yes.
good luck to you, and hold on to that advantage you got.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Have a
Enjoy.
great evening, Holland.
Take it easy,
Thanks for
Holland.
coming.
Bye.
All right. Peace out. All right, guys. That was HOLYN HANDLEY. The chat has been a little wild. Not too wild, but a little wild. Everyone's got strong opinions. I would like to wrap up the topic of hole 18 and that throw and how it was ruled before we move into any other topic.
I mean,
Let's
that means
do
we're
it.
going to spend the rest of
Nope.
the show talking about
Nope.
it.
I'm saying my piece and you guys don't get to talk. No, okay. Here's the deal. Currently, the sport is ruled by group decision. I don't think that's new to anybody unless you're brand new to the sport. So that's just is what it is. Here's a few quotes. Missy Gannon. She thinks it might have cut in and then rolled out on the course, real time.
Mhm.
That's right out of her mouth through the live production. Juliana Korver. I can understand that from the tee they think it did cross in bounds. I don't fault the card for giving her that spot. It's so close that I would, as a player from the tee, given it to her as well. Juliana Korver, legend in the sport. Seeing it also from the camera view. Now, from the camera view, she's pretty sure it stayed out of bounds, but she says, being in their situation, she would have done the same thing.
Mhm.
Zoe Andyke, there is a chance that it hit the tree over the inbounds line. Holland, I thought it had touched, and I asked Alexis, and she thought it did too. And 2 is enough to make the call, which is true.
Yes.
And Missy also thought it had touched in bounds. So I've seen events, and then so someone goes, well, that's great, Matt. But do we want to distort the game? Do we want to water it down? Do we want to have egregious mistakes happen where it affects somebody's livelihood or whatever, right? Because of a shot they've made. So they say, let's have the spotter. What's up with the spotter? Why wasn't he there? Well, the spotter was there, and it's very possible. I haven't talked to this spotter specifically, but it's very possible that that spotter thought it was either close enough that he didn't want to say anything, and they didn't specifically reach out and ask him. There was a marshal that was on the card, literally making sure that everybody was in agreement with the ruling that was made.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's my thing. Everyone wants to say that, like, oh, maybe people on that group didn't want to make a hard call. Well, that's usually why you have multiple people answering the question. Okay, it's not just one. It's at least 2. The other thing is here, I may be speculating here, and actually I am speculating. If this happened on Kristen's card, I can almost assure you the same answer would have happened,
Mhm.
even with Kristen on that card, because there would have been multiple players who would have said this. Now, some people are still going to be bothered. Well, Matt, I don't care how many people say it. If I can see on video that it was out, don't we want to have the most true aspect of the sport and like its results? Like, don't we want that? And we've seen sports for how long now incorporating replays? and incorporating going to the booth, checking out every, millisecond of what happened. In fact, I think the Patriots won some Super Bowls because of replays. But here's the thing.
And deflated balls.
And deflated.
Get out of here.
So the rub here to me is not whether or not that integrity was here. Like, was the right call made? Because here's the deal. The right call was made. The group made the call.
Mm-hmm.
That's the right call. The question is...
I wouldn't go as far to say that. But the group made the call that they thought was right. Doesn't mean it's the right call. They thought it was right, though.
Well,
it's the right call.
That is the right call.
Yeah, it's the right call.
That's what Matt's trying to say.
Yeah,
Not
thank
that
you,
it's
Adam.
I
like,
get what you mean, but I'm just saying that,
world,
like,
in a perfect world, like it might have been, ruled a different way because of replay or something else.
So
but
here's where I'm going with this. There were events, and I think it was at Portland Open, where I'll throw Missy Gannon's name out there. She had thrown a shot on one of these over the water holes. She thought she had crossed in bounds at one place, and video coverage, it was very clear she did not cross in bounds. This is another situation. I should have pulled it up as a video. Go find it at Portland Open. I don't remember which round it is. And the group walks up there, and the spotter's like, very clearly, it never crossed in bounds. And they all look at each other, the cards, and they go, did it cross in bounds? And the group says, yeah, I think it crossed in bounds up here. The spotter's like, it definitely didn't cross in bounds. The group goes, yeah, we think it did. We make the decision. I'm paraphrasing, but that is what happened. And so the rub here is not whether or not, again, the rules were handled correctly. It's whether or not as a sport, we would like to progress forward with that. And at this point, I'm okay with it because I feel like there's no quick, immediate fix to it. And just like, I'm not going to bring up every situation under the sun, but my wife has assured me many times, like, the world is not just ending tomorrow. There's a lot of things in place that would prevent that from happening. And I'm paraphrasing, but like, you aren't going to make disc golf lack integrity and be a horrible watered down sport because groups are making calls. It's been that way for a long time. It actually stands up pretty well. So it doesn't really matter if the spotter calls it because the group's going to make that decision anyways if they feel like that's the right one. And then finally, you ready for this one, guys? You're going to love this one.
Sure am.
So first of all, video evidence is inadmissible. So what you guys saw doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's mattering for the perception of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And some could say the integrity. That's fine. But here's the deal. I am sure each of you, if you play disc golf competitively, I am sure each of you have benefited from a wrong call in disc golf. I can almost guarantee it. A bunch of cheaters we all are. And I feel that because there is no way that every single time from your group that you have seen something accurately, how many times have you gotten up there and been like, this is what we saw? And someone else is like, no, it's definitely not what we saw. If you've ever been in a relationship with a significant other, how many times have you said something? The other person's like, you didn't say that. You said this. And you're like, no, I definitely didn't say that. Perception is crazy. And all my point is when you play disc golf, guaranteed there have been calls made in your favor. I'm not saying you knew it. I'm not saying you knew that it was in your favor and it was really, let's say, out of bounds, but I guarantee it's happened at some point for you. The question is, and I'll send this out to everybody, do we want to get rid of that? Because right now that's acceptable in the sport. Let the cards make the call. Do we want to get rid of that? And is there a way to do that? But to this point, congratulations, Holly. I don't see anything nefarious. Holland.
Yeah.
Holland. Anything crazy, lacking integrity, nothing of the sort.
Yeah.
It's a question of, is this what, that's the debate or the debate and conversation I would have. Is this what we want for the sport going forward? Or would we like to see cameras on all the trees and replays and people making calls besides the players?
And
That's it.
You know, the craziest part about this whole thing, everyone commenting, if they're in that position, probably not. And they knew when, I'm not saying Holland knew, and they knew when out of bounds. If you're in that position, I guarantee you're looking the other way because you want to win. And you got to think about what you would do, even though you're commenting like, oh, it went out of bounds. Like, I'm just saying. I think.
What are you saying?
I'm saying
I
90%.
think that's more about
Are you saying
you than it
Holland
is
looked
us,
the other
Ben.
way?
No, I'm saying no. Holland did not. I'm saying all the people commenting need to realize, like, oh, what if I was in this situation? What would they do? And I don't think people are
like
thinking about that.
$5,000 was on the line. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
to be fair, I'm there at the course now.
Oh, my bad. Wrong.
I'm there at the course. It would have been out of place for anybody to do this, but nobody's like in the galleries that I heard or around me being like, oh my goodness, that never crossed in. Like nobody's doing that. Like in the gallery, even having discussions amongst themselves. It's only people who are watching on cameras. And this is my point. Over all the years of disc golf, over all the years before live coverage, how many times were wrong, to Nick's point, wrong calls made using the rules, but wrong calls made that benefited somebody to be able to win? Yep. I guarantee it is way more than anybody knows. We're seeing it more. Are we okay with it? That's my question. Are we okay with it? And how would we move forward?
Well, I'm going to just quickly go to the chat right now because the chat's blowing up. Shout out to everyone even talking about this and just joining the show and in the discussions with all this.
So easy to work them up.
Exactly. Daniel, our OG, Daniel, our guy who did the pop lock and drops with us last week, said that's why I like drop zones or re-tees on shots like that. If it lands OB, you re-tee.
It's a great
you
answer.
Don't have to. I love that. I absolutely love that. And especially someone earlier in the chat, Flint, was talking about blind holes. Tee shots that land OB, I think a majority of time should go to a drop zone. I think par threes that have island greens or are long with OB surrounding pretty much the whole thing. I love drop zones that you could save a three, but you have to hit a putt. Like hole 16 at the Fort, 2021 Worlds was an awesome par three downhill island. It's where James actually won the world championships. If you miss that island, you go to the drop zone. It's a makeable putt, but it's not easy, but it's no determination of, oh, did that land in bounds? Did it not land in bounds? All of this is completely gone. This whole conversation's gone. You take the drop zone, you put it onto 18's fairway to the right, short of like bottom of the hill, and now they have a hard shot. They're already, it could have been beneficial for her, it could have not been beneficial for her if there was a drop zone.
That fixes this situation.
I think it fixes most situations in the conversation.
I think it fixes a lot as well.
It takes out the whole conversation
for most situations of OB. Foot faults were still group decision.
Yeah.
Time calls, nobody's doing. Well, it's going to be rare. So my point is like, are we foregoing? This is my question. Should we forego the group decision thing and just say, how would you officiate the rules then?
Look, as a disc is flying through the air. And I'm not saying, I don't have perfect eyesight. I think I have pretty good eyesight. But when you're watching a disc and it hits a tree 30 feet up in the air and then it lands and a disc doesn't just perfectly land flat. Okay. It's not a ball where it's just symmetrical and it just lands flat. Okay. The disc is kind of wobbling through the air, sometimes moves left or right. When it comes down, if it sways a little bit, now you have to think, oh, where it hit in the tree, was that part inbounds? It's for the card mates, for us, we could say it's an easy call to make. We can watch it. We can slow it down. We can go frame by frame. We can look at, this is where it hit the tree. This is where the OB line is. Yes, it's in bounds. No, it wasn't in bounds. For the card mates, though, to do that all in real time, it's more often than not, the same exact result happens had this been any other card, whether it was a lead card, chase card, or the last card. That disc hits where it did and lands the way that it did. I think the same call happens 99% of the time.
The fact that, and I'm going back a little bit. The fact that two people said they feel comfortable and I don't think strongly that it was in bounds and they spoke that up.
Two people that weren't Holland. Remember that. Two people that weren't Holland, Missy and Alexis.
Yes.
Both thought, yes, I believe it went there.
Exactly. And if I've been in a few group call decisions on a tournament, granted not for a major title. And if you feel strongly about something, you're going to say it. People look at you and go, you're crazy. But you're like, I'm only saying there. I remember one guy looking at me being like, how in the heck are you calling that on me? Like, you're so wrong. Like, it's obvious. They kept saying that to me. It's obvious. And I said, you think I'm just like making up what I saw? Like, I'm not saying you didn't see what you see. And I'm saying I saw what I saw. Like, I give you that. But like, I can't just change what I saw. Like, oh, you convinced me. Now I saw something different. Like, I can't do that. And that's the interesting thing about the rules here is that it was called that way. I don't think you could have walked up and said, Alexis, like the spotter, for instance. No, I saw it up here. So will you change your opinion? And Alexis goes, you know what, spotter? I guess you're up here further. I'm going to change. I didn't see it. No,
Yeah.
I guess I made that up. I didn't see it go in. And Missy does the same thing. You know what, spotter? I must have just made it up. I didn't see. You saw better than me. I guess I'm wrong. Like, that's not going to happen if you bring the spotter in. Everyone's like, bring the spotter down. And I already told you what happened at Portland, and I used the name Missy. Like, when and I'm not trying to say Missy as in Missy's making bad calls. Although that's interesting, I just said that. But it's like, the spotter can give their opinion, but it's a group decision. How do we fix this? Drop zone's a great idea.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
rule calling in general.
I think what Nick's getting to, and Daniel in the chat with the drop zone, is one step in order to get to what you're getting at, Matt. And this is kind of my thought looking through all of it is I think we need less ambiguity in courses, you know, and that's why adding drop zones is one step. But then also in the rules, like I've talked about my ideas on like step putts and jump putts, that it's really hard to tell that if it's an advantage, or it's really hard to tell if, you know, it's illegal or not, and there's a huge advantage swing with that. And so I think we should be having rules that limit those. I mean, you have like the triple mando at 2021 Worlds where Paige Pierce missed it, and you could see it on replay. That's another one that goes to my mind. There's too much ambiguity. But then you look at hole 7 at Winthrop, you know if someone made the triple mando or not. Like, it's very, very clear from the tee, and there's enough bamboo around it that you know. But then you look at hole 5 at USDGC, and for the men, you have to play the mando left of those trees. There's a big, long kind of foul pole type thing, and you have to play over the water. I think it was Simon. Somebody threw very high, and it from the camera, it looked like it went around to the right, which was missing the mando. But it's very hard to tell. And I mean, it even happens in like football and baseball. If you kick a field goal and it goes over the upright, it's hard to tell if it was inside or outside. Like, the ambiguity still happens. But I think we should think about that when you design a course, like, hey, we want to put this mando in, but it's only, you know, it's still a very tall 200-foot pole or something, but there's still a chance that somebody throws it around it, and maybe it's not 200 feet. That's really, really tall. But you put that in, you have to know that there's going to be some sort of doubt. Like, if you have, like, island greens generally are a straight shot. I can't think of a pro tour course where the island green is like completely blind. So that way you don't know if you cross over it to make the island or not. I think that's something that we should strive for over time. It's not going to come immediately, but it's one thing to think about just constantly, like, hey, is there ambiguity in this? The drop zone's a great one. I'm also like, I'm for the bunker rule. I think that's great, where you just have to re-tee, but then you don't lose a stroke like we see at hole 16 in the European Open. I think there's a lot of ways to do that. And it's a step. But to talk specifically about this Holland Hanley throw, I think the camera looks fairly clear that it's didn't ever go inbounds, but it still wasn't definitive. As Zoe was saying when you said those recaps, we don't know where the tree was. It was a diagonal line. It very easily could have crossed overhead, 3 or 5 feet back of where it ended up landing. It's very, very hard to tell. And again, there's just too much ambiguity to it. I would love to see things just like, when these happen, you work to be better. I don't know if there's much more to say on it.
How many times have you seen in professional sporting events? I'm thinking probably mainly football, but baseball's included now, basketball's included now, where even after watching video replay, they get it wrong, and the world goes crazy. So, like, even if you gave the permission to the spotters, like, they call them an official, and they make the rule, they get it wrong, everyone else goes wild too. No, it was definitely in bounds. It's like, no matter what, you're going to have a little bit of ambiguity. But what I like about the drop zone is that removes most of all of that.
I think it's a good step. And Matt, I think you bring a good point about, other sports deal with this even when they have replay. It's really easy to do this when you're not Kristen Tatar or a huge Kristen Tatar fan. As in, if you're neutral is what I'm trying to get at. Not that I'm not a fan of her. But when you don't have emotion tied to it, if you're a huge fan of her, you're going to be really, really upset about this. I mean, like, the people who know me know how upset I get at calls for all the sports teams I'm fans of. It's very, very frustrating in the moment. But then when you see it from the outside, you can be like, hey, it's just really hard to tell. And what they say in those moments is, hey, you could have won the game in other ways. That flag at the end of the game in football, well, you guys missed a field goal earlier in the game. Like, you could have won it there.
Absolutely.
And so,
I love
Kristen
and
Tatar-
hate that sentiment.
yeah,
It's
love
like
and hate it.
it's
You
like
love it
people.
when
It's like people who lose in a
not you.
playoff and they're like, "Oh, I could have made that putt on hole 5, or you could have made that putt on hole 5 that was from 15 feet away." It's like, no shit, Sherlock. I definitely could have done that, but at the same time, it's like we're talking about in the moment at the end of it.
And that's my point. Is
there's
there's so many important moments throughout a whole tournament. It was a 4-round tournament. They played 72 holes, and Winthrop is pretty good at having stroke swings. Kristen was, I don't know if she was exactly leading, but like, let's say in the driver's seat to play well, and then wasn't playing her best. She fell back. She came back in. She fell back. She came back in. Like, she had lots of opportunities to win it and didn't until Holland kind of opened the door. And to be fair, sometimes it goes the other way. Like, think about Waco with it happening to Ella. It did open the door, and Kristen came in and won. But sometimes it's just
it's a good point. It's a good
things.
point. So I really hate to bring this up as a New England Patriots fan. We're not the same team we were the past 20 years.
God, we suck right
But
now.
what about
we're not good.
What
Dude,
about
it's
the
ridiculous.
Snow Bowl versus the Raiders? Anyone that's in the NFL knows that they got ripped off. They got ripped off. The Raiders.
No. Can I explain this real quick?
Go ahead.
I know you're trying to just use an example, but this one annoys me.
My classic Evan.
No, stop. So I'm trying to think of a disc golf analogy for this, but it's essentially like a bad rule. I mean, you could, like, maybe the Mando rule feels this way to it, but that year the NFL changed the rules to, as they change the rules very often, they changed the rules to pretty much heavily favor quarterbacks. Sound familiar? They're still doing it to this day. If you look throughout the whole entire season, the exact same situation happens maybe a half a dozen to a dozen times. It's how they called it the entire season. Now, is that how the sport of football really should be? Does it really feel like a fumble? Yeah, they've changed the rules since then and have corrected. But as of that season, that was indeed an incomplete pass. That was their intention of the season.
That's okay. It's sensitive. It's sensitive to Evan. But here's my main point.
No, it's sensitive. It's sensitive because people think of other things than rather actually the context of the time.
Do you think Evan was a fan of the Patriots or the Raiders?
It's very clear. I admitted that.
This was my point. We don't have to talk about the Patriots game. My point was more or less piggybacking on yours, and I know it was like I was a little wrong, but like your perspective as a fan, like back then I was arguing hardcore one way, the Raiders arguing hardcore the other way, and it's like, if you are a fan, someone said this in the chat, and I almost didn't want to say it out loud, but it's worth at least just mentioning it. Someone said, if this was Kristen, the world right now would not be as upset. There may be some validity to that. She is a fan favorite, right? Fandom says so, right, Evan?
Yeah,
like you're more likely to go with who your player is, your favorite player. Yeah. Again, that's not on Kristen. That actually has nothing to do with Kristen. So I don't want to make that be like a take like Kristen would have said. But I already did say Kristen's card probably would have ruled the same way. So, like, again,
I think they would have.
Based off of perspective.
99% of the cards out there would have ruled it the same.
Based off the perspective. So that's why I said, do we want disc golf to keep going that direction? I think there will be a drop zone on hole 18 next year.
I think there should be for OBT shots. I mean, Southpaw, we do have the technology to show the drive. I don't think we're gonna do it. They were asking if we can do the replay.
We can do replays, but
it would I think take a little bit to find it. We gotta clip it off of DGN.
I agree.
Yeah,
I want to recap the rest of the event.
I do have approval.
Cool
I do have approval to use DG and stuff, but and some shows do it. Our listening audience,
DGN, look up their post round, whatever. Watch Jomez for it when it comes out in a couple weeks.
To end it all, I'm just gonna say this: tie goes to the runner.
Well, now you're going to get the next group started. You're getting the next group.
Okay, Evan, all right, we're moving on. Evan is not derailing the show.
Because one, that's wrong in baseball. I got to say that. That's not how the rules are.
That's not how they work. That's not how it works.
Tie goes to the runner.
It's the same issue.
Okay.
All right. I want to say
go ahead and do the recap. Evan, say what you're saying, then do your
Thanks.
recap, then we'll move into the next topic.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone knows by now that Kristen Tatar finished in second. But what she did do with this is when I think it was over 7,000. I think it was like $7,150. She has now set the single year cash earnings record in all of PDGA history. That's man or woman. She was the first to break 100,000 last year. but then Ricky Iwasaki ended up passing her. Paul McBeth also hit 100, but didn't pass Tatar's record. This year, Kristen has gone out and beaten both her and Ricky's record. She is now the number one on that list all time, which is very, very cool to see. And we're not even done yet. We mentioned the Tour Championship payouts. She has the chance to put that up to 147,000, which would be insane. But of course, other players also have a chance to win that money instead. And Kristen Tatar could be a little bit less, but still a lot of money on the season. She finished second place last year. So now she has been back-to-back second places. And then real quick, Hannah Blomroos and Evelina Salonen tie for third. They were both leading through back and forth throughout this tournament. They were looking great. Of course, putting is still a little bit of an issue, something to work on, but they were definitely playing great in it the whole time. Ella Hansen also had a great event. She was kind of up and down throughout the tournament, had some really good rounds, had some also really not the best putting. She finished in fifth place. And then lastly, I want to mention Ellie Ezra Midling. She goes by Ellie. Remember her from Worlds, the distance contest held at Worlds. I don't know if she won it or just had the farthest throw at some point, maybe in the preliminaries. She can throw a mile. Some people say she has like MPO level form, which I don't love to say it like that because it's almost,
it's not necessarily the form, it's power. It's a power throw like we don't see many FPO players do. The only one I can even think closely of, honestly, is Paige with that power. Maybe Katrina, but really it's limited to very few.
Yeah, and she throws incredibly well. She's only 16 years old. She's still going through school, so who knows how many events we'll see her playing. I wouldn't imagine that she's going full tour next year, but maybe we see her at a few more events. She hasn't even played a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite event. She played Worlds, which was her first major, and then Throw Pink, which is of course an A tier, but major like. She's played a few silvers. But here's a fun stat is she finished in 10th place here at Throw Pink. She's the first FPO player to finish top 10 at either majors or Throw Pink without a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite appearance prior since Kristen Tatar did it at 2019 Worlds. And then lastly, I want to say Katrina Allen. I want to mention it because it's something that's still going on. She finished 20th. So another, not great by her standards finish, but it is her first top 20 since coming back from Europe. So you could argue that it's her best finish since she's kind of been in this slump. And then one more name I want to mention back on the NPO side, I skipped over it, but it's Sullivan Tipton. He made back-to-back lead cards. He didn't even finish top 30 at a major before this event. He finished 12th overall. So very cool to see him play so well. His forehand, was buttery great all weekend, and he was a ton of fun to watch. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do.
And had an ace.
Yeah, on
major ace.
7.
Almost had two aces.
Yeah.
The last round hit the basket on the top of it on 17. I mean,
on 17. Okay, right.
Insane.
Yeah, Cole Ridellen gets hole 17, which we'll mention him later, but he got an ace as well. So cool.
Exactly.
That's right. DGN had some new commentators in the booth. Juliana, we've become pretty familiar with.
One of the best.
Yeah, whether it's post or live, great, fantastic insight. We love it. And now Paul McBeth's cry for Ken Climo to be more involved in the sport. Remember last year, one of our interviews? I'd just like to see more of it. Mm-hmm. Well, there's Ken. He's in the booth.
And you could barely hear him.
At round one specifically, we don't need to talk a lot about this because if you go to our first episodes, Nick, specifically me, I haven't learned a lot, but specifically me, I was just cutting people off 100 times worse than I do now. And so some level I related and felt a little bit bad for Philo, where I was like, man, he's just excited. He's just excited. But it took away from the cool
experience. You gotta be able to put that excitement
Ken.
To the side, though. You know what I mean?
Let's put you in the booth with Ken.
I think I would do a much better job with it, to be honest.
Than Philo.
Yeah.
That's a hot take.
If you gave me 100 rounds of disc golf to practice commentary and then put me next to Ken Climo in the booth or anyone of that
Philo
caliber,
even had 100 rounds of disc golf commentary.
Okay, 50 rounds. I would say at least he's probably had that.
Yeah, that's probably a closer number.
We're talking about this is at this
I
point,
guess he's on
this is
what, year
Philo's
3?
Yeah, this is Philo's like full-time
Yeah.
job at this point. He doesn't compete every single week in and week out. Yeah,
I just have a different take. You're right, Nick.
I
Like
get
that
it.
he could be better,
You're
but
giving
like
the benefit of the doubt. You
for
know,
once,
to the
you can bring the
commentator.
hot take.
You're giving the benefit of the doubt to the commentator. I get it.
No, because Ken's the commentator too. I'm saying that was a new scenario for them, and I think he was amped up. I do think it wasn't a
He got
great
better throughout the event.
I'm being clear. I don't think it was a great product, and I think it probably was addressed and it was fixed for the most part.
Yeah.
People loved having Ken in there.
Jab.
Yeah.
Look, we don't. I'll say this in disc golf, and name me another sport besides UFC that does it. But where do we have 3 commentators in any other
baseball,
sport? Does baseball have 3?
Yeah,
Baseball-
ESPN
baseball's-
notably on Sunday night.
Baseball,
Not
or
your
excuse me,
regional
basketball is
games?
usually 2. Like when
The
I
Red
listen to the
Sox
Celtics,
well, yeah, your local game. Your local games are usually 2. Although the Red Sox did 3 for a while, but this year they've been mostly 2, or I think fully 2. But ESPN Sunday Night Baseball generally does 3 in the booth. NBA very often does 3 in the booth.
so
I don't think
I usually see
NFL does too
two with.
often.
Then they have a special on-site reporter.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, of course. I'm not here to defend the 3 in the
Yeah.
booth, but it is something
If-
that does happen.
If you did 3, we're not professionals at this either. Listen how we talk over each other. But if you have 3, you need to have designated like pretty clearly. Like either don't speak unless spoken to, whether that's Philo or whoever else, or like literally let Ken talk first. Or maybe they said, do your normal thing, Philo and Ian, and then like let Ken chime in. I don't know how they talked about it, but it didn't go well the first round. I did see Philo after, and he was definitely down. And I was just like, I didn't even say anything about it, but I was just like, hey, man, like good seeing you out here, that kind of a thing. All I want to say is real people doing their jobs. And like I see on the internet, like fire him. And I'm like, come on. Like I have a bad night.
You can have a
every
bad
time.
day at your job. Like if I have
It
a
was
bad day at my
fixed pretty
job,
quick.
something bad happens. If
Yeah.
Philo has a bad day at his job, he gets torched by the online people. Like I'm not trying to sit here and torch
Yeah.
Philo, don't get me wrong, but I do. You got to take criticism. You got to take constructive criticism, which I think he did do. Like I said, it did get better, but there's I think 3 commentators is too much. I think Ian and Philo would make a great post-production team to do commentary. Like Ian has done with Central Coast
Well, that's
for
how they
years.
started.
Years on years, with Ian doing Central Coast Disc Golf. Incredible post-round production. Besides for telling what the disc is actually, like what they're throwing actually is, Ian, I think, does an incredible job with post-round commentary. Now, I think for the live commentary, watching golf or disc golf speaks for itself. You don't have to talk over the players playing the whole time. Like I like just watching. I could sit there and watch the old Marty McFly So High videos without any commentary and just enjoy listening what's going on. I don't have to have commentary 24/7. This is me personally. I'm just saying it for like what I enjoy. But just, if a player is stepping up to the putt, I don't need to know exactly that it's 48 feet. I don't need to know that this is for birdie. I don't need to know all these different things. It's just let the player go up there, take the putt, and then talk about it afterwards, or talk about it as he's walking up to the putt. I think the commentators feel like they have to talk 24/7. They think
Hilarious,
that doing
Nick.
that is like us getting
I would like to
enjoyment
try
out of
this
that.
just to see how we do, because I guarantee again we would talk more than we need to. Look at our show. We're done 20 minutes. No, 40 minutes. Like it's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that, because I was watching back DGN because I was in person down there,
Mhm.
and I was watching it back, especially hole 18, because I saw it in person. I wanted to see it filmed, so I was watching 18 when Holland threw her shot. And it was like I was watching through the whole thing to like post round, to like interview Holland and all that. And it was funny because it got quiet for a little bit. And it was like cool, like ambient, celebratory, like stuff happening. And literally it was nice. And then Charlie comes on and he goes, sorry about the technical difficulties. We haven't been able to talk for a while. And I'm like,
It's like, thank God.
that was actually a
Stay
great
like
break.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you didn't even have to say sorry. Like just come back and start talking.
That's why watching disc golf live, if you have the chance to go to a big event,
And that's not
It's so
not a
incredible.
shot at Charlie.
No. I get what you're saying, but like that's why, like when I remember kind of being at the World Championships last year, and everyone was dead silent when Paul's putting on hole 17. There's just silence, and then Paul makes the putt, and the whole place just erupts, and it's awesome. It's such a great experience that like I want to feel that same thing sitting from the comfort of my own home. and just know that like, hey, like I know what this is for. If I've been following along the whole time, I know what the player is putting for. I can kind of tell where circle 1 is, so I can tell if they're 5 to 10 to 15 feet outside of that. I don't need the Bushnell marker saying I'm 48 feet away. I don't need all that, and I don't need it talked about for 5 minutes while the player is actually throwing.
Well,
so like, I think a lot of people in the chat, I know I'm getting a little riled up about this, but like less is more ultimately.
Going back to that tech issue real quick, when it popped back on, it cracked me up. And again, this is not a shot at Charlie, because I probably would have done the same thing. But he's like, sorry about that, what you just saw. And I'm like, we know what we just saw. Like, this isn't radio, you know? So like, I agree, less is more. And I think we've gotten so much better.
Yeah, I do agree with both of you. What I do want to say is I would actually prefer more talking than golf has. But I agree that on the spectrum of, you know, more talking to less talking, I want to be closer to golf. I just wanted to at least say that.
I want to bring a vote to kick Evan off the show. Just kidding.
You said Kobe Kevin?
No, I said I want to bring a vote to kick Evan off the show.
Oh,
just because you're disagreeing with me.
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
well,
I'm just
that's
kidding.
every episode,
totally
my
kidding.
man.
Yeah. Evan's our certified disagreeer. I think that's why he brings the stats and he brings devil's advocate.
This
It's
is
funny
great.
because
I'll
Evan
show
and
you.
I more so agree during our group chats. Like we agree, I think 99% of the time. It's just fun to go at each other on the show.
And for the record, I would probably say like 90 to 95% agree with you. Both of your takes on this about the amount of talking.
Yeah, it's just, again, I feel somewhat relatable. So I'm like, man, it's hard to be like, but I always say what I think. So I do think
everyone's talking about I didn't get to like I didn't watch all 4 rounds start to finish for FPO and MPO, and so everyone is saying Zoe was being nice about a terrible henna putt and JK told it like it is. And so this has been what this was. This has been one of my issues with Zoe as a commentator. She's way too colorful and butterflies and rainbows of like, don't worry, everything. They all try to make a storyline from hole 2 on. It's like Evelina misses putt. Oh my God, the tournament's over. It's like, no, there's still 57 more holes left of the tournament. Like she's okay. I think they just
it starts at the All-Star event. I remember it's like it literally starts there. They're like their season is over.
Yeah, their season. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, All-Star doesn't even matter.
Kona wins the All-Star event, then Kona wins Waco, and then it's just like we create something out of it the whole time.
I'm being serious. I don't want that job. It's just is what it is.
I'll end it with this. I'll end it with this. I loved Ken Climo in the booth. I think that was one of the coolest things that USDGC did. Same thing with Juliana Corbett, but having Ken Climo in the booth, who I want to sit down. I would love Ken Climo to come on this podcast. I'd love to actually dissect his brain when it comes to everything disc golf, because I think that guy is so knowledgeable, has a great speaking voice, and would be a benefit to any commentary team out there. I think it would be incredible. Same thing with Juliana Corver. They have so much knowledge of the sport from a time that I, barely existed in my own life. I was like 4, 5, 6 years old when they're kind of at the height of their careers. And then now where I'm at in the sport at 29 years old, it's being able to see those people. It's like when Bill Russell would go to Celtics games and give his knowledge about things. It's just OG players like that. You love to have them. So I was ecstatic when they said that Ken Climo was going to be in the booth.
Yeah, I want to give 2 positive notes to. I don't want to like not give good praise to everyone else, but I do think Ken Climo and Juliana Corver were fantastic this weekend. Ken Climo had one where there was a spit out kind of on a putt. And, I think Ian and Philo were initially like, like that stinks. Like not necessarily blaming the basket, but just like, we feel like that should have gone in. And then Ken was like, well, actually what happened is the putter flipped upside down. So it had like the opposite spin and it was countering out. Very cool. And you're just like, whoa, like this dude knows disc golf. Like we know he's a, 17, 18 time major winner. I should have that number memorized. I
think it's 17.
17. Correct.
Okay.
Statbando.
Yeah, thanks guys. You guys are the best stat guys on the show. But like he has won that many majors, but then like you just like almost don't actually realize how much he knows. And so when you actually get to hear him talk about it, it's very cool. And then Juliana, when you mentioned the one about Henna Blomish's putt, she was like 50 feet out. I think it was hole 14. It was the downhill one with the hay bales, hazards. She didn't really lay it up. She was kind of even like a soft bid. And she does what I always do, and I hate when I do it, is like I don't think about how it's going to land. And then it just like the putt kind of softens out. hits on its side and then just rolls a mile. And you're like, oh, you didn't actually plan on how to have that land. You just kind of putted, and then it was so soft it just, hyzered out and fell on the side. And Juliana explained exactly what's going through, and she said, hey, if this was a better putter, you wouldn't really blame her for running that, but she's got to know what her skills are and that she should have laid that up, and was very blunt with it and knowing what type of game someone has. And then the last thing I want to say is it's more of just like a sad moment. I want to pour one out to Ian Anderson. If you've been watching him for however long he's been doing Central Coast, it's been a while now. He always would tell the patent pending story whenever someone would do a patent pending, on how it was between Ken Climo and Barry Schultz of who invented it, and they didn't know, so they said it was patent pending. And Ian asked Ken live on it, and Ken just like, yeah, I don't know, it was called that when I got in the sport. And Ian's
he's like, I have no idea why I'm at all affiliated with the patent pending.
I wanted to go hug Ian because I'm like, man, like Ian's done a lot of great things in commentary throughout his career, but like that's a big one for him, and I felt so bad. I mean, it doesn't take away I don't know, a story is what a story, and Ian was telling it from what he thought was true, but it's sad. I shout out to you, Ian. I hope you're doing okay after hearing that. Yes, this is what we need.
This is your music to go away to. No. First of all, I was down there, and the love I kept getting for the show was awesome. People are like, you had me cracking up with this intro. It's a classic. Like, people loved it. It's like you just felt so inspired. Look,
I feel like I'm about to go, like, I feel like I'm in Saving Private Ryan right now. Like, we're just, some massive things about to happen. And anyways.
So here's where
also
I'm going
nicknames.
with this.
Let's cut out nicknames during commentary. We don't need to call him champ. If Michael Jordan goes into the booth, no one calls him Air Jordan.
That's easy for you to say when your nickname is literally Nick Carl. Like,
well,
that's,
okay.
It's forced.
I understand that, but like it was a little forced. And so at
really
that point, it's like if Michael Jordan goes into the booth, it's
I'm
not, they're not saying like, yo, what's up, Air? What's up, Air?
All right.
No, they're saying
it's like
going on, Michael.
It's like we talk all the time. It like me be saying like, right, Evan? Right, Evan? Like you can just say right.
Okay.
Instead of champ.
Right.
So do you guys remember the interview we did? By the way, that was epic music to introduce this. Do you remember that we did the interview with John Kirkland?
Yes.
Yep.
I got in a round of disc golf with John Kirkland, one of the original Frisbee throwers and disc golfers. In fact, the winner of the first ever Frisbee World Championships with disc golf baskets. He is that guy. Like, I saw him down there and I said, we have to get in a round. Me and my two boys went and played with him. He's in his 70s. I'm pretty sure, I want to say 77. If he's listening to the show, he's probably cracking up now, going to call me out and be like, no. What a great, fantastic, energetic guy. And he's out there disc golfing at that age and keeping up with me, which you could say is not impressive, but like, because I'm not that impressive. But like, I'm like, man, this guy is good. You could tell he's been playing for a long time. Like, it doesn't just leave you. So that was really, 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 really cool and special. I actually grabbed a few social media clips where he was telling some stories of things.
Heck yeah.
We'll post them up and whatnot, but that was really cool. So other thing I saw, go ahead, Evan. You had something?
No, I just said very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. The Frizz Whiz. I'm going back to nicknames. If he was next to me, hey, Frizz Whiz, constantly.
Yeah. Imagine just a whole show being like, what's up, Frizz Whiz? Like,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Nick Carl. How you doing, Nick Carl? What's
Well,
up, Nick
so it's
Carl?
actually like my kids constantly like, Mom, I have something to tell you, Mom, I had this, Mom, and like constantly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't have to say Mom every time. So, okay. So something else I saw in person. First of all, I told you about the viewing experience at Hole 7. Very cool. The Zuka Lounge elevated on a stage.
That was very cool.
Evan,
I'm very jealous.
it was so cool. Like, I don't know how to say it.
Lounge.
I already gave praise to Hole 7. I want to give more praise because some people don't love it. I get like it is something you have to get over in like disc golf is like, hey, we sometimes have things that aren't natural. We're throwing through a man-made bamboo triple mando. The shots that come out of that are so much fun to watch. Like, it's such an easy hole that's not easy.
Yes.
And it's just like, that's what you want. Hole 7, like, it's the pressure of getting a birdie. And of course there's the, you miss the mando, you might not get a par. Like, there's all that. But to me, it's kind of a birdie or bogey score. But like, it's Hole 7. So it's like kind of early on in the round still, but it's just a fun shot for a ton of people to
Yes.
There's so many people there when you're watching on TV, and just watch cool shots.
It's
and that's
not
what's
hole
fun
8
about
at
disc
Maple
golf.
Hill, but it's another one of those like
different. No.
entertaining shots to sit and watch. It's pretty satisfaction like is high just watching the throw come out.
Yeah, I'd absolutely be there for an hour or two or a whole day.
A whole day.
If I was down there all 4 days, I'd be down there Friday all day.
I did that.
That's just where I'd be.
I did that, and it was fantastic. So shout out to them. They're going to do more with that even and make it bigger and better and continue to do that. But one of the things I noticed, because I sat there for a whole day, I said, let's do hole 14 for like a day. Let's do hole 7 for a day. Let's watch all the cards for one day, like that kind of thing, follow the cards. But hole 7, you get to see the progression of the cards, like from first card all the way to lead card. And something that stood out to me, as you might expect, is the quality of player as it progresses.
The lead card makes 3 out of 4 of the shots. The first card makes 0 out of 4 of the shots.
With MPO, I want to be clear, it's not as drastic. Yeah. I mean, it's there, but it's not as drastic as you're going. Because, like, I would still see the lead card miss too, and they're like, what? But typically, as you get up to the final 3 or 4 cards, most of them are throwing it through, or at least not missing the Mando. They might hit it, but not missing it. And I hate to make this conversation take this turn, but I watched FPO. And we know this, but it's significantly more drastic. Like, way more drastic. And what really stood out to me, and this is kind of where I'm going with this for a little bit of this conversation, is Katrina Allen was very far down the list, right? As far as where she was going into whatever day it was, 3 or 4. You're watching the players throw. And then Katrina gets up, and you just watch. And I'm not saying any names, but the quality of player that she was with during those rounds. And she throws her shot, and everyone's like, whoa, you've played with her, Nick. I've been on a card with her. I've filmed her. It's an athletic throw. Yeah. There's nothing like chancy or like, I don't know what I'm doing about it. It's very athletic.
It's direct.
She's struggling with some things right now, but like the athletic performance that she brings is not struggling. So it literally stood out like way above everyone on her card. As you progress up, again, the next card is kind of like, oh, like they're kind of hoping and fluffing it through 7. Again, I'm not degrading any of the players here. I'm just saying my experience. And as you continue up the chain, it starts to really pick up as you get closer to the top 2 cards. And that's what we'd expect. All of a sudden, you start seeing a lot of this athletic performance. Boom, boom, boom. And again, every now and then you'd see this FPO player mixed in a group that you felt like, man, her athleticism, you can just see it, is way different than the card she's playing with. And people I didn't even recognize. And I'm like, man, if they figure out their putt or they figure out their accuracy, they're going to be really good. And so I guess where this conversation is going, just seeing that in person, watching the cards play through, because they don't do that on DGN for you. You don't watch card 1 through card 18 or whatever. This started going to my mind. And this is obvious, but let's bring the conversation to tour cards. Okay, so tour cards are a thing right now, but they aren't fully matured into what they will become. Players at the bottom of the standings, do you think it's going to be in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? Players at the bottom of the standings are eventually just going to be knocked off the tour, and players that are fighting to get on tour are going to take that spot. Like, is that next year?
No. Because you gotta spend money for the tour cards, and I think the Pro Tour still right now values that money that they spend on the tour cards. So I think realistically, I'm
saying fill their spot.
No, they're pretty much have sold out of tour card passes, right?
That's
like
what
they've
I
done
think.
a good job with it. Like I mean, maybe they could grow FPO to more, but then that brings in the conversation of like splitting courses and whatnot. But like having them all, having a total.
So
of
bring
like
it over to MPO then.
I think they're about maxed out.
And
Matt,
the players,
I think you're on the right track.
The players at the bottom, the players on the bottom of rankings.
Did I say 2 years?
Yeah, like I feel like these qualifying events that Jeff brought up a few weeks ago to get on tour, they're not just going to be like, okay, everyone that qualifies, like we just create new spots for you. I think it's going to be players going into the next year. It's like you weren't good enough to earn it. You have to go back and win a qualifying event to get back in, and those who did win are taking your spot. Like, how soon do you think? You said not too soon, but Evan, I'm on board with like not this year, but with these qualifying events coming in place, I'm saying next year. There's going to be players who aren't allowed to tour. I
guess we'll have a better idea next year.
3 years.
Yeah, I was going to say I would say 3 years.
3 years.
Like obviously not next season. I would say not the season after that, the next one. So I would say 3 seasons from now. is when we would potentially see that.
Yeah, and it has to be filled up a little bit more, I think. Like that 60 to 80 spot. I think right now when you look at it, you're like, okay, those are good players, but they might not be committing the whole season. Like people who are outside of the top 80, like I go to Kale LaVisca right now. He's in 91st. Obviously fantastic player, but not touring. He's playing some MP40 events. He has his own course. He has his own event. He's not on tour week in and week out. So when we start seeing, players who are still committed to touring being the ones that are dropping to 91st, that's when this comes in. And I think that is about 2 to 3 years. But I'll go, one name is Paul Ulibarri. Like after the Beaver State Fling, he was sitting in 89th place in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. So by that point, he wouldn't have had a tour card. Now, there's a chance he still could have gotten a tour card because, they have an exemptions based on, injury and other factors. And then I think they also might push it down to max it out. I'm not sure exactly how that all goes down. But there was still a chance he might not have earned it. Now, he completely turned it around. He's playing in the Tour Championship in a couple days. So he's not this case. But like a player of his caliber, like one bad season and you could be off the tour and now looking outside in, you might still be following the tour to do these tour qualification events. You might still be playing it enough because they don't fill and they're going to just general registration. Like there's still the chance for that, but it's gonna be a lot tougher.
I agree. And so I don't know, I'm just looking down the list here. There's a lot of names you don't even recognize once you get over 90 or 100 players. You're starting
who
to
are tour card.
Well, I don't know if they're tour card holders or not.
I don't know how you would tell who's a tour card.
I'm not sure either.
I think it's top 80, right?
Yeah. For next year, it's top 80. I don't know what FPO is.
Well, so here you go.
Amanda, we also have the list because we calculate things off of it. So I could pull it, but
Chandler Fry is 80th, but like a player of his caliber, this sounds mean. This isn't about you right now, Chandler.
Fry.
But for instance, like
that's actually surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. But my point is like, for instance, there's another player that's up and coming and wants to be on the tour and he's able to earn his spot. And there was some criteria not met. Chandler Fry leaves the tour. Like, I'm saying we're getting to a point where don't we want the cream to rise to the top, and we're eventually going to have to do that. It's going to eventually have to happen. And I think FPO is going to be a little longer, but MPO is getting close to ready because there are players right now that are on tour because they just want to be on tour. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that's eventually going to change.
Yeah, there's a few like Connor O'Reilly in 78. You mentioned Chandler Fry in 80th. I also look at Jake Wolf in 73rd. Those players were playing a lot of events and they're good players. And they're worthy of playing on tour. So like my point being is the bottom of the 80 has plenty of players who are going to play every week, who are good players who just maybe didn't have the best season and are at that level.
But if there are better players out there, and I'm not saying how that criteria is going to be determined yet, but they should be on tour over lesser players. So,
oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so eventually that's going to happen where players that we're saying right now, like even what you just said, right? Like those players eventually are not going to be the best and they're going to be outplayed.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say the one tricky thing though is like you're talking about better players. I'll argue, I think that's a little bit further. I think from the pool of players who are going to be generally touring, maybe they don't hit all events, but let's say they hit 60 plus events in the tour. Like I'm trying to think of some names. Like Grady Shue might be one. Like him and Paige Shue are touring, but they're taking weeks off. But we're splitting events they're playing. Maybe there's someone who's just still in high school or trying to do college, and they're only going to commit to like 5 to 6 events in a year. They might not be tour card level, even though they might be a better player than the bottom end of the tour card. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And imagine the day where the tour is, and Nick, it'd be crazy, but like the bottom of the barrel's like 1,040 rated. And like top of the barrel's 1,050 rated.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty far stretch.
3 years.
Yeah,
it's progressed. It's progressed pretty. It has
Yeah,
progressed a lot,
years.
and maybe I'm saying in my year. No, it's progressed more than that, and even my years of playing disc golf.
The bottom being 1040.
I think it's
like
when
better than Simon Lazat.
This sport is rapidly increasing, and I'm being
there 8 players in the top 1040 and above right now.
Well, you guys know there's rating inflation. All I'm trying to say is there's going to be a point where I'm trying to condense it to say like the quality of player is going to be very significantly compact.
I agree.
It's not going to be as strong.
I agree.
I think
Not
realistically,
1040. I think the
realistically
rating
should be-
messed us up.
I think realistically it would be
Yes.
1,000 and above. is
1,000
I
is
think
the
it'll be
bottom?
higher. I think
Yeah.
it's
what was,
already
what was
above
Parker when he
1,000.
won DDO?
Probably
he
10,
was- he
14.
was
10, 14, 10,
Yeah.
15?
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
so
well
10, 10,
above
I'm
1,000
saying,
one
right
yeah,
stroke
that's
better
what
than
I'm
I said,
saying.
so
I'm
10,
saying
10
it's
above.
going
I
to be
think
above.
1020.
Yeah.
I said 1030. Who gets 1040? Let's going once.
I think
No,
it'll be
I-
like kind of
10,
like
15.
out,
All right.
when like you're investing, your kids are investing time into disc golf. I think that's when it's going to be. I think the kids that want to be a disc golfer now, when they're 10 years old, and they just need to get 10 years older, and then that's really when
Yes.
it's going to
kind
happen.
of already happened, just not at the
at the scale.
80 total players.
How many
level, yeah.
how many local players are we having now in your areas? Everyone that's listening, that used to be scarce. Oh, there's 1,000 rated player in my state. Like, I can speak for Massachusetts. There's a lot more than that now. And all I'm trying to say is they're not even on tour, most of them.
Mhm.
And it's like, this is happening everywhere. The quality of local is increased. There's going to be, out of those, the few that like make it through the local to the regional, and they're the 1,010s. And then they're like, I want to get on tour, and you got to get a little bit better. And it's like, that skill that we're going to watch in these events in the future, whatever year that is going to be incredible. Like, I will not see, to this point, going back to my story of sitting at hole 7, I won't see as drastic of a difference. It's going to come down to like, I missed 2 putts in that round or that event, and I lost. Like, it's going to be extremely high, like from card 1 to card 15 or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and because disc golf's a lot easier to not lose as much strokes, in my opinion, as like golf. So I think it'll be a lot tighter once everyone gets up.
From
It's going to be
first place,
super,
yeah.
super tight.
First place to 72nd place is like 3 strokes.
I don't know
So you
about
should go
that,
back to
but
7 rounds.
Yeah.
7 rounds. 7
I mean, I would
rounds.
love
Come
that.
on.
Yeah, be sick.
7 rounds.
But I think no
Um,
matter what, we're going to see that, I mean, inflation of the young crowd get into the sport, because people can finally realize that you can make a living off of disc golf
Yes.
as a professional player.
Yep.
You can. If you get a good contract, you're a good player, you get some wins, you can make a comfortable living off of disc golf. Next week, they're about to give someone $40,000 for throwing a disc for 4 days. $10,000 a day
$40,000.
to throw a disc. Okay, that's pretty incredible.
Go
That's like-
practice, Nick.
yeah, exactly.
It's like,
No. So anyways, but like, that's why we're talking about a lot of these kids who are coming to, like, Matt, you got all your kids into disc golf when
Yeah.
they were born. They're
Yeah.
literally throwing mini since they were
this
kids,
is my
because
point. It's
you now
it's-
know that your kids have a legitimate future in a sport where they could make money. 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. You had a select few people who were going out and doing it. I mean, look at, we were talking to Will Schuschek last week. He was driving 60,000 plus miles a year with his car and going out, and he was probably not making more than 60 grand for the whole year. And now we have players, Kristen Tatar, back-to-back years, $100,000. She made the most money ever in PDGA history. And that
And
number is
just-
only going to, what's that?
Just PDGA earnings. Like
Just
you're
PDGA
not even
earnings,
counting
that's what I
her
mean,
sponsor
yeah.
pays or disc
Yeah.
bonuses or literally anything else. Like our
Yeah.
other
Her base
sponsorships.
salary is what, $125,000 a year. So take on the other $100,000 that she made off career earnings and then disc sales.
That sounds nice.
Yeah,
she's made over $300,000 or $400,000 this year just throwing a disc around. That was not for
And it's
the only
incredible.
player
Yeah, it's
that was doing
incredible.
that back in 2015 was Paul. There weren't other players that were making that kind of money.
I think she's very standout as a disc golfer in general. Her skill level is very high. And so I preface all that, like saying that. But I think it was even Ella in an interview that I did with Ella back in the day. Like, do you think you're pretty smart coming into the sport? Like now, like seeing the opportunity, she's like, oh yeah, like I see a good opportunity. The field isn't that strong.
Mhm.
Like literally, I'm paraphrasing, but out of her mouth.
Yeah.
I think the FPO field has a lot of developing to do, but we've seen drastic increases. So, but this isn't to take anything away, but we're going to see a lot more of Kristen's, or maybe that's excessive. We're going to see a lot more of the players in the top 10. The whole field will be that, and it'll be just amazing.
I think we're going to see a lot more Holland Hanleys get into the sport.
Yes.
Holland Hanley came
4
from
years.
a sports background of just, I think, powerlifting and other, like she was an athlete before she came into the sport of disc golf, and then started training like she did back with her other sports, and has quickly risen to the top. I mean, she lost in a playoff at DDO. She just won Throw Pink. I mean, we're going to see players like that who Kristen makes more than a lot of WNBA players make. And WNBA players are playing, they're dribbling a basketball since the age of 3 years old. And she's making more than a lot of them. You're going to see players like that to where if their career fails somewhere else, they'll get into disc golf. And if they have the work ethic that it takes, they will surpass so many of the females that look at the stroke discrepancy from first place to even some of the most notable names. The chat was saying it earlier. Holly Finley was 44 strokes off of first place this last weekend and beat Maria Oliva. Maria Oliva has a Silver Series win at the Lake Marshall Open, or excuse me, the Jackson.
If anybody's curious, Maria Oliva was my pop pick.
We can't forget about those.
No, we can't.
And also, we're not
That's
that far
unfortunate.
from like FPO having like 5 players get in the field. Like, I'm pretty sure Paige Pierce got a top 5 at a Disc Golf Pro Tour event while DNFing. Like,
Right.
and it's just to say, like, we think of the Disc Golf Pro Tour as being like this new era. Maybe some newer fans are like, it's been around forever. Like, it may feel like that, but we've come a long way just since 2016, which is obviously a long way from
very long.
plenty of other years before. So it's incredible to see this growth, and I think FPO has been going just as fast, maybe even faster than MPO, but it is just a little bit behind.
Get your
as far
dollars
as
in the
total
sport.
tap.
That's what I'll say. Get your dollars in the sport, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. That was fun conversation. So let's move into
Pop, lock, and drop.
Yes. Right before that, a few minutes. Does player of the year conversation change in, I don't want to say any way, but in a significant way after this last weekend's performance? And I guess MVP Open. Like, is there any significant, like, ooh, that was a big deal? I mean, Isaac took 3rd at a major.
Yeah, I'll start. Like, well, first, FPO, I don't think changed. Of course, you could say, Throw Pink being only an A tier shouldn't change it. I disagree. But, Kristen Tatar is so far ahead that it didn't change. In FPO, I think I said this to you guys maybe a week or 2 ago, and I was talking with Gannon Burr in that room that you guys are all in. I've always been feeling since the World's win that Isaac Robinson is the player of the year. 2 majors, the first player to do that since 2019 in MPO. That's a huge accomplishment to win 2 majors in a single season. People like to mention his early season not playing, the super best. He had a lot of, outside top 30 finishes to start the year until Champions Cup. But I still felt like it went to him. But I felt like the public perception was going to lean heavily towards Calvin Heimberg. We even did a poll before Worlds on Statmando's Instagram when it was really just Calvin versus Gannon Burr. It was widely Calvin. Like, I think it was probably 85 to 90%. But of course, Isaac won World Sense. That's going to change. But I think Isaac finishing 3rd here. Calvin finished 5th, not far behind. I think it was even just a stroke. But Isaac finishing 3rd here, I think, is huge because it's another podium at a major. He now has 3 podiums at majors this year, with 2 of them being wins. So I think he would still have my nod, but I think the fan perception is going to lean a little bit more that way. I don't know if it's more than Calvin, but it's definitely a fair amount where there's a really good discussion between the 2.
So a little bit of shifting. Intern Ben, how was it with your first ride with Calvin Heimberg as your pick? Like, he does good. He seems to always be in contention, but no win.
Yeah, it was okay. He was like in 12th for a while, and I was watching it, and then like he was, I think, first or second day, and I was like, he's there, but yeah, it's like,
it's crazy.
But I will say that is a great attribute to have for Calvin Heimberg. He's always there. He's always lingering. It's just about if it's his day or not. And I mean that is incredible. He's
hasn't
just
been
there.
his day since April. Okay, I say that joke, but I do want to be clear. If anyone ever mentions that Calvin Heimberg hasn't won since April and that should affect his player of the year race, get out of here, because it's a player of the year race. Whatever he did in March at LVC matters the exact same as what's done at the end of the year. I mean,
this
you
isn't
can count
recency.
majors more, but yeah, all the credit to Missy Gannon's finished in 2021, but Paige Pierce did deserve the player of the year that year, but people voted for Missy because she won Throw Pink and Tour Championship back to back. So if you favor a specific event more than others, that's fine, but a time of the year should not matter for player of the year race.
And there is still a PDGA player of the year and a Disc Golf Pro Tour player of the year, right? Correct?
And a Statmando player of the year. But yes.
Player of the year.
Yeah.
So
Do they
people,
anyone else want to play
for
the
getting
year?
the Statmando?
Is there-
No, we're definitely the least prestigious and
is there a situation this year, like last year there was a situation where the player that the PDGA announced kind of upset people? Like, are you kidding me? Is there a situation this year between the different point systems where
I was gonna
people
say a
feel
couple
that way?
years ago, didn't Katrina and Paige both win Player of the Year?
Yeah,
Remember that?
but who was it that won over Kristen last year? Didn't somebody win over Kristen?
Paige Pierce won Player of the Year in the
Right.
PGA last year.
That's what I'm
Kristen
saying.
Tatar won Statmando and DGBT. The Disc Golf Pro Tour changed their. Let me pull it up real quick.
I'm
They
just curious,
changed
like, is
their
there anything
Player of
that's
the
that close where it's like a storyline where we're like, oh, it's going to be between so and so and so and so, or is it no? It's like,
Well, in
Kristen
FBO,
in
it
both.
shouldn't be a question.
It shouldn't be.
Year? No,
Yeah.
the
No.
PDGA.
No, I'm not saying for
changed- actually,
conversation. I'm saying for
Yeah,
point
yeah.
systems. Like,
the PDGA and the Disc Golf Pro Tour actually both changed their systems. I mean, both slightly. The Disc Golf Pro Tour, excuse my wobbly mic, I don't have it secured as much, but the Disc Golf Pro Tour is doing 50% media member vote and 50% tour card holder vote. So they'll each vote and then weight it proportionally. I don't have it pulled up what the PDGA changed to. I'm almost positive they changed their system just a little bit, of course, after
Okay.
feedback from last year and what happened. So I that's going to be more performance based because they don't do a voting, I don't believe. So it'll be, last year it was, kind of like a Disc Golf Pro Tour point style, of course, a different point structure, but a similar type of deal, which Statmando's Player of the Year is also the same, where it's a, algorithm based and not a vote.
okay, well, I'm not like super excited about Player of the Year, but it is a discussion to be had. And I think for me, Isaac probably is leading, as kind of like you mentioned a little bit, I feel like, but Calvin is so consistent. It's insane.
Insane.
So, all right. I think that takes us to our last segment here, which is to do the pop, drop, and lock.
It's already been 2 hours. That was
Yeah.
the fastest podcast I've ever been a part of.
Well, Evan, you have to tell us last
Oh,
week.
yeah.
And Daniel, shout out to Daniel, joined in on the phone last week for all this.
I
And
hope
we
he
have
wins.
his points as well, right?
Nice.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right?
Sure. Yes. You got Daniels. Yes.
All right,
yes.
good.
call.
Yeah.
No, I did not forget. I can be forgetful. I did not forget this, Daniel. I got you. Let's start with pop picks because Daniel crushed these.
Sick.
Daniel picked Chris Clemens and Alexis Mandujano, who finished ninth and seventh place respectively.
Yep.
Chris Clemens finishing ninth. To be clear on that, Chris Clemens averaged 29th on the season. That's 20 points. Alexis Mandujano finished rounding to 19. That's 12 points. So he got a total of 32 points between those.
That's good.
I'm going to jump ahead for Pop specifically. He was the only one of us to be positive. But let me run him down real
Wow.
quick. Nick, you picked Steve Brinster and KT Tati. For Steve Brinster, we agreed that his average would then be 80. He ended up finishing 85th, so you lost 5 points there.
Damn.
For Katie Tati, she finished 25th. Her average was 23rd, so you lost just a few points. You finished at -7 while rounding. Matt, you picked Nate Sexton and Maria Oliva. Both those finished below their average. Nate Sexton finished 79th. I should look it up. That might be his worst major finish of his career. Shout out to
Yeah.
Nate.
I picked him
Next
as a
one.
pop
You
pick
got the next
too.
one.
Like, what?
Yeah, he averaged 41st on the year, so he had a lot of pop points.
Headroom. I thought so.
So you lost 39 points there.
And he's won
Maria
that
Oliva
event.
Finished 35th.
Ugh.
And she averaged 18th on the season. So you, in total, lost 55 points. That wasn't the
Ouch.
worst of us in pop picks. That wasn't the worst.
Yeah, I know who's the worst.
So yeah, it was bad. And I'll start with me because I'm going in order
every
by
week.
this. I picked Brody Smith and Silva Sarnen. Silva Sarnen actually got me positive points. I was the only person besides Daniel to get a positive point person. Daniel got both. I only got one. She finished 8th. She was averaging 18th. That's 10 points. I picked Brody Smith, though, who finished 87th while averaging 42nd. So that's a lot of points I lost. Overall, I still lost 35 points. And then on to Ben. He picked Salad Schultz, as he called him. I guess that's a nickname. I don't know if Salad's short for finishing 94th. While averaging 40th. So he lost 54 points there. Paige Shue also finished 35th while averaging 20th. So 15 points there for a total of 68 points lost. That is the worst of anyone else in
Ouch.
pop. But the good news is it does not end there because we had lock picks. We'll go with you, Ben. You picked Calvin Heimberg and Haley King. They both got top 10 finishes, but not on the podium, so 5 points each for a total of 10 points.
Woohoo!
I picked Ricky Wysocki and Kristen Tatar. Kristen got a second place finish, which is podium, is 10 points. Ricky Wysocki missed the top 10, but was 11th, so that's 0 points. I didn't get any negative. He missed out on his top 10 streak at USDGC, excuse me.
All
7
from
straight.
a bogey on the
Ended
last
there.
hole.
He has to qualify for USDGC next year, which is wild
Who?
because he usually
Ricky.
doesn't have to.
Oh, okay.
Ricky Wysocki.
Yeah.
I got 10 points total. Matt, you picked Nicholas Antala and Missy Gannon. Both of them
That's a
got
good
top
pick.
10 finishes, but outside the podium, so 5 points each. Total of 10. I feel like I'm going rapid fire. If I'm going
I
too
love
fast,
this.
tell me
No,
to slow
keep
down.
it going. You're killing it.
I feel like I need to because there's a lot to get to.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Nick, you picked Simon Lizotte and Kristen Tatar. Both got podium finishes, so 10
Podiums.
points each. That's 20 points total. That's the most of anyone
Yes.
in lock.
Sick.
Specifically, Daniel picked Gannon Burr. Oh no, and Kristen Tatar. 10 points from Kristen Tatar, but 27th place for Gannon Burr. That's the third worst reigning champ finish at USDGC history for the year after they win. The 27th is not all that bad, but high
the worst,
expectations for
though.
Gannon.
Yeah, I was about to say,
That's
what's
negative.
the worst?
It's actually Paul Macbeth in 2019 when he had that ankle injury. So
Yeah.
it's tough on him because he could have DNF'd and he didn't. But Daniel loses 5 points from that pick. He overall ends at 5. Now going into the drop picks, because there was a lot moving around here. Let's start with Daniel because he did so well elsewhere. He picked Isaac Robinson and Ella Hansen, who both got top 5 finishes.
Daniel,
So
such a
I
bad
let's
know.
get to the end.
Such a bad pick.
I even did.
17 points lost. But that wasn't even the worst. Let's get to the worst, and that is Nick Carl.
Oh,
You picked
no.
Aaron Gossage and your winner, HOLYN HANDLEY. Aaron Gossage got
I
a
picked
7th
Holland
place
to
finish.
drop.
You
Damn.
picked Holland to
So-
drop.
I did too, Nick. I did too.
You
She
got
won.
negative 20 points. The
I
good
wasn't
news
going to tell
for-
her that tonight.
The good news
Sorry.
for Matt, though, is he did pick Holland to drop. He lost 6 points there. She has a good average, so you didn't actually lose all that much. But you picked Ezra Robinson, who finished 45th, so you got 28 points from him. So overall, you got 22. Well, let's talk about the big guns, me and Ben. I picked Cole Redolin and Katrina Allen. Cole
Wow.
Redolin, man,
You just got
I
something
didn't
against
want you to prove me
DGA, don't
right.
you?
I did, but no, DGA,
Yeah.
love you and love the Breakers.
Trevor
Cole
Harbolt,
Redolin
shout out.
finished, Trevor Harbolt's tour series from 2021, money, or 2022, I forget which one.
Whatever the ice
Uh,
ones are.
Yeah, whatever the ice ones are, those ones are great. But Cole Redolin finished 76th while averaging 21st, so that's a lot of points for me. Katrina Allen finished 20th while averaging 14th. Got points on both with a total of 61 points. While Ben picks Owen Scoggins and Evan Scott. Owen Scoggins finished 13th, just a little bit worse than our average, so that's 5 points. And then Evan Scott finished 87th, which is the worst of any drop, but funny enough, the same as Birdie Smith, which is my pop pick, and better than Ben's pop pick. Funny how that works, but you still got a lot
Yeah.
of points. In total, you got 58 points from
Wait, so I have a chance
drop.
to do good?
You have a chance to do good. And with that, I will go over the total points. If you listen fast enough, you could add these up. In last place, we have Matt Graham with negative 23. In fourth, we
gotta be
have
me.
Nick Carl
Yeah.
with negative 7, excuse me. In third, we have Ben, who is pretty much at even. So there you go, Ben. Only barely negative. And comes down to me and Daniel, the GOAT at Pop Lock Drop. I'm just kidding. I can't call myself that. Or the guest picker. And the winner is
Evan Kearns.
me again. 36 total points for me. Well, Daniel had 20. Man, Daniel, if you didn't pick 2 top 5 players as your drop, you
Daniel.
probably would have won by a mile. So that was fun.
Shout out to
So
Daniel.
That
I
was
feel like
fun.
I've said enough, so
Yeah.
I'm going to stop
No,
talking now.
that was
Hey,
awesome.
good for you for doing all of that.
Wow. I mean, he
Gosh.
did most of it. I collected the data for
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Evan
Yes,
though
thanks, Matt.
is, for being a stat guy, he's pretty good at his knowledge and picking the players. I think
know,
Evan has
it's
the
not
most.
fair.
I don't think. I know
Because he
Evan
runs
has the most
simulations
wins out
at
of all of
night.
us.
We'll do it in
He
a
does-
segment.
runs all his
He does his
simulations.
homework. Good for him.
We're gonna.
I look at really basic info and make an assumption off of that. So
Yeah.
I think you guys need to get your
So
standards
not
up, is
fantasy
my,
disc golf?
honest take.
not fantasy disc golf, but someone's gonna beat us to it because they're listening now and they're a software developer,
No,
an app
So
designer.
stop.
Stop. No.
Let's no.
Can you make us an app? Somebody reach out where it's simple to input. Like I know you could do this, Evan, too. But it's simple for us to input it in, and like everyone could play against us, and it would be like beat Evan Kearns. Like that's the goal, to beat Evan Kearns, dude. Pop, drop, lock. Like it'd be cool. I don't know. Maybe.
Evan,
Yeah. I mean, a really simple way would just make a Google form each week with a list of players. Like that would be a simple way to do it. You don't have
Okay.
to make a whole app. So
And then they would just
Maybe
pick
for
their
next year.
players?
Or we can make an app too. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make an app. I don't
I'm
have
not
time for
making
that.
an app.
I'll take a nap.
But if
I'm
someone
gonna
wants
take
to,
a
they're more than
nap,
welcome
yeah.
to.
I'm gonna take an
Otherwise,
8-hour
we
nap
could just do like a
tonight.
Google form or something
Yeah.
All right.
and pull it in, which would be cool.
Yeah.
Evan,
We'll figure it out.
whenever you're feeling down and weary, just remember you win these pop lock draws. So
Yeah. Next time we play around together, and I actually, I'm not going to spoil anything, but didn't come in last by myself.
Well, it was cracking me up because when I had to listen through for the pop, drop, and lock,
yeah, Evan wakes
to
up.
get it for you, Evan, to get like the information for last week's episode. So I was listening through. Ben cracked me up so much because he's just like, when Evan goes to bed at night, he just lays there. No matter. Yeah.
I'm a pop lock drop champion.
And it cracked me up so much. At night, no matter how bad his day was, it just,
That's funny.
it was funny.
I appreciate the humor, but in actuality, the amount I think about this is maybe like 5 minutes. But I will
We're
gladly
joking.
whoop y'all for that amount of work.
Yeah, it's a good job. Yeah,
But-
you
Matt,
do
I'll
the
say-
extra
I'll say
work. You
this, Matt.
deserve it.
Matt, you
Thanks,
forgot
guys.
about one of the best things down at USDGC.
No, I didn't forget. There's a
No.
lot to be said.
Well, I'm going to tell you what you forgot
Okay,
about.
forgot to say.
Nick and Macho Pins were there live in person.
This is what I'm saying. There's so much to talk
Yeah,
about.
right.
We could do a whole episode. But yes, live in person.
Did you
Shout
get
out-
us-
shout out-
Did you get us some? Because if you didn't, I'm kind of ticked
No.
for my new bag
Here.
that I'm using.
This guy named Mike, fan of the show.
Shout
I'm
out
trying to
Mike.
find it here. Maybe I can't. I'll find his picture. Somewhere in here.
See, Nick, you could have been like me and pre-ordered it because I got mine actually coming on
Here it is.
Friday.
Here it
Wait,
is.
does anyone
So-
else notice Matt as his like do? That's his like. That's his like. I don't know what to call it, but that's his.
Hell yeah.
So this
Icebreaker.
is
I don't
know what
this
to
is Mike. He picked up. He may be the first person, but it was the first person that came up to me and said, "Hey, look what I just got." So they are
Nice.
available. I just got a
Is
shipping
it vain
notification.
for me to
as
have a
well.
Nick and Macho pin when I?
It's on my bag.
No,
I'll probably
I
give
think
it
it's
away.
Cool.
Like
You got to rep.
Oh.
I wear my
That's a
best Star
status
Trek
symbol.
brand all the time.
It's true.
It's just
Like,
like
whose is that? That's me.
Yeah, it's me. It's just like got to rep. Rep your own brand.
I'll probably give it away if someone walks up to me and says, "Hey, can I have that pin?" I'll give it to you if you see me around. But otherwise, go on to the website Disc Golf Pins and order them. That is a first run. I'm not sure we'll do another one of those runs. We'll see. I have other ideas as well. So
dump and run.
also,
and
I
run.
haven't watched it
Funny.
yet. And maybe I shouldn't say anything. Bodanza, are you still in the chat? Bodanza Disc Golf. I think he's still
Bodanza
there.
in it
I'm
all
not
today.
sure. I can.
I'll give him 10 seconds to respond, or else he's fired. No, he texted me, but at the same time, I want to make sure I don't shout out something here. So here we go. I'll just shout out. Never mind. Here we go. The backyard barbecue. He texted me and said it's going up. He filmed in the backyard during the backyard barbecue. Colredall and Gannon Burr, other players, Harry Chase local, and then 35 other people, including Chris Clark, discgolf.law, myself, Evan, Nick
Was not there.
somewhere else. But Bodanza Disc Golf made a video, and go check out his channel. Disc golf content multiple times a week, really high quality. He did this in the backyard. If you want to see what happened, this is the text he just sent me, and this might come off as vain for him, but I think he's probably also pretty proud of this one. It says this is definitely a top 5 video I've ever made.
Yeah.
Sick.
That's literally what does he text everybody
Nice.
that?
No, not at all. Obviously the Simon video was like his number one, but
So that's number 1 he's ever made. Okay.
no. I think it's because I think it's the story. I think.
Have you seen it yet?
No,
It's
but
apparently
knowing how
it
he
might be
edits,
released right now. So we're gonna go over and watch it.
I think it's a great story to tell for him, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but he did really well. So you gotta
Oh,
check
in
it
has
out.
the
glitch-
video.
He did
Okay.
Glitch
Yeah.
Worlds too, right? Like he filmed that. Is he going to post a video for that with
He already
Ben
did.
and I
He already
on the
did.
card? Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
I
been.
need to get on YouTube. That's
Yeah,
on
you
me
gotta
then.
watch it.
My bad.
He already
All right, I'll
posted
watch
like
it.
right away. But yeah,
Oh,
it,
what?
it's a good. I think
Okay, cool.
I think it's a good video because it's a good story and it was a great event, fun event, and he got to play with Cole Gannon, so that always helps.
Well, so I'm sending everybody there, but it's not posted yet. He did say that it is maybe uploading. Maybe I should have read the rest of the text. If it's live the next time you guys are off the air, watch it. If you like it, say something about it. Oh, I guess I haven't watched it yet. Maybe I don't like
said
it.
something about it.
Anyways, go subscribe over
Shout
there.
out
Bodanza.
Bodanza.
Yeah, it will be a pretty cool video, I'd imagine. Not because it's my backyard, but because it's probably pretty cool.
He's good at editing. That's why. He's
All
a good
right.
storyteller.
We just did a lot there, but we didn't do the picks. So do we want to do the picks?
I want to at least take like 60 seconds just to explain what's happened at this year's tour championship, if
Okay.
we don't mind.
Do it.
And then, well, actually, let's do this first. Is I was going to say, outline the picks to y'all about what we were thinking is pretty much the cut line. MPO cuts to 12, FPO cuts to 8 after 2 rounds. Of course, there's advantages and all that. Just scores resetting, and it's a final 2 rounds with that cut. So our game was going to be, or our picks was going to be, pick someone who's in the cut or above the cut line who you think is going to drop and not make the finals for the final 2 rounds, which would kind of be your drop. And then pick someone who's outside the cut line who's going to jump in. It doesn't matter who wins overall unless we wanted to pick that too. I mean, we could do a third of that. I don't really know. I'm making this up on the spot.
Just
but I
tell
think
me
that'd
who
be
to
fun
pick.
just to pick some people. So I sent you guys a link of you can see the stroke advantages there.
Did you send us?
Did you send an email or a text?
I did it in the video stuff. Caption thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
All right. So what I wanted to say is new this year to the Tour Championship, you probably heard it already, is that there's going to be stroke advantages. So based on your Disc Golf Pro Tour standings throughout the season, you get a stroke advantage into this tournament, excuse me. It's somewhat similar to what you see at the PGA Championship. I don't know what they call that event, the FedEx Cup Finals. Yeah, excuse me there. But it's a little bit different because you have the stroke advantages for 2 rounds and then it cuts. Like I said, MPO's at 12, FPO's at 8. Scores will reset and then they'll play the final 2 rounds with no advantage. Just a normal stroke play tournament for 2 rounds to then choose the winner. So even if you're leading by 100 after the first round, all that means is you make the cut and you move on. It's kind of a hybrid between what the PGA uses and then what the Pro Tours used to use, which was a scores by single round. You make the cut and then it's a new round. It's a fresh tournament. So I think there'll be a lot of thoughts on this, but something it will do is create a lot of excitement for the final round. So you have these stroke advantages. They're not really advantages to win the tournament. They're advantages to make the cut. So if you think about Calvin Heimberg and Kristen Tatar, who both are number 1, they both have high stroke advantages. They are almost guaranteed to make the cut. Like if they don't make the cut, I think it'll be very, very surprising and a huge headline for the weekend. But they're not guaranteed anything past that. So it's not like they get a free win at this tour championship because they were the number 1 on the point standings. They just get the advantage of making the cut, which I think is really fair and then also still creates the excitement. So just to go a little bit further before we make our picks, for instance, Calvin Heimberg starts with a 6-stroke advantage, although that is a 6-stroke advantage over the bottom of the field, which is 32 total players. It's actually only a 4-stroke advantage on the cut line, which is at 12. Is this on me? Do I only have a certain amount of time to talk?
Matt
so
is just going
I
off with the stream deck today. I love it.
yeah, one interesting thing I thought is maybe in future years the stroke advantage will switch around. So instead of a 6-stroke advantage, Calvin Heimberg would have a 4-stroke advantage, and then the cut would be at 0. And then if you're in, let's say, last place, instead of having a 0-stroke advantage, you're +2. It's just a different way of looking at it. It all means the same. But I'll just run down the top 4. Like Calvin Heimberg starts with a 6-stroke advantage. Isaac Robinson finished second, 5-stroke advantage. And then Gannon Burnt and Ricky Wysocki will start with a 4-stroke advantage. And FPO, Kristen Tatar will start with a 5-stroke advantage. Missy Gannon with a 4-stroke advantage. And then Owen Scoggins and Holland Hanley with a 3-stroke advantage. I feel like I've said enough there. Is there anything you guys are curious about that you want me to dive into, or are we good to make our picks?
No, I think that's a general consensus of it. Whoops, forgot to put my earphone up. So
Nick's headphones were off.
No, I was saying I had it like this. My right ear just feels a little bit sore right now. Took a nap earlier, and I think I just slept on it weird. No, I literally got home from work and was like, I got an hour and a half to sleep before the Nick and Matt show. I'm taking a freaking nap. It was bad, but yeah. Anyways,
let's do our picks. Lead me through this again.
I was going to make one caveat that for someone above the cut line to finish below is we don't pick Katrina Allen because she's just having a tough time. I think that's a likely pick, although maybe you want to include it because maybe people think she's destined for a comeback and that she'll make it here. But I think it'd be fair to at least not pick her for this, just because I feel like it would be an easy pick for a lot of us given her recent form. But again, we're picking someone in, let's say, FPO first, someone who's in the top 8. So that's Kristen Tatar, well, in the top 7 if we exclude Katrina. So between Kristen and Haley King, you pick someone who you think's going to miss the
See you
final
later,
round
Cat
cut.
Merch.
Who's gonna miss what?
Who's going to miss the cut? So they get these stroke advantages for 2 rounds.
And what's
and then
the
it
cut line?
cuts based on the 8 for FPO.
Okay. So okay.
So they all have a stroke advantage above, let's say,
Right.
Sarah Hokum in 9th. Some have more. So like Owen Scoggins has a 2-stroke advantage. Missy Gannon has a 3.
How many people make it in for FPO?
8.
No, like total.
18. It looks
Oh,
like.
20.
20. Okay, so
so,
Juliana and
yeah.
Henna are both in.
So yeah, with what I
Okay.
sent you, Henna is not in, Juliana's in, but Valerie Mandujano got an auto bid from winning the LWS Open. Paige Pierce also got an
You're
auto
right.
bid
You're right.
for winning a few
Oh,
events,
that's why
but she is
I
So
didn't see
injured.
Juliana
the
made it
other
in though.
2
No.
bold number.
Juliana made it in because
names.
Paige Pierce dropped.
Good for her.
So I might be missing something here, but like, isn't it possible that Kristen through Haley, they all make it into the final 8?
Sure, and
Yeah,
then
that's
it just would
possible.
be void. That's
Okay.
absolutely
Okay.
possible.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just like, am I missing something? Okay.
I'm making
We're
my
just trying to
pick.
guess who.
Cat Merch.
No.
Ella Hansen.
I thought it was funny. I kind of want to go Ella Hansen because what Holland was saying and hyping her up. Not to play against it, just thought it was interesting. I'm also going to go with Cat Merch.
Wow.
I can't go Cat Merch. I can go
No, you
Owen
can't.
Scoggins though.
What?
Owen Scoggins.
The reigning runner-up.
Yeah.
Why not?
That is
Massive
has been
choke.
picked.
Bold
Locking it in.
strategy.
Wait, didn't
Now-
you pick Owen Scoggins last week to drop too? You did.
What was it for pop or drop?
It was
you
drop. You
picked
said,
it
I
for
hope she
drop.
forgets everything that she knows, you said.
All right,
Yeah.
same things. Yeah.
Hey, she finished 13th, which is her first her
Exactly.
worst
She's
non-DNF finish
rusty.
since Music City Open. She's been
Wow.
on a tear this
Tear.
season, so
Ben better
I
stop
still wouldn't pick
picking
her for a drop though.
Okay, so we did that. Now what's
I
next?
love Owen.
Oh,
Now
great
we're
one.
picking someone in FPO who's between 9 and 20th for the tournament, who's going to make the cut. So again, like Sarah Hokum, Macy Diaz, Jessica Weiss, and Allie Smith all get a stroke advantage, but are still 1 stroke behind the cut.
Man,
Recency bias. My favorite player right now. Lucky.
I know
I-
she's been playing well.
So make the cut and that's it, or like what happens if they keep going like finish well?
Allie Smith.
Maybe we can pick a winner pick too. I don't know, man. I'm just making this up. as it
So
flies.
this is for like pop offs and drop offs.
Yeah,
This is our
it's
pop and
essentially
drop.
pop and drop
And then our
replacements,
lock
yeah.
pick will be who we think is going to
Okay.
win the event.
Allie
which is
Smith.
Kristen
Sure,
Starr.
yeah.
Allie Smith.
Yeah.
Ooh, Allie's
You
awesome.
went with
Yeah,
Alike.
I was liking that too. I think I'm going to go Macy Diaz.
That was going to be my second pick. I would have picked him.
Yeah.
Did Ben pick yet?
I'm going with
Owen Scoggins.
Sarah Hokum because her partner just subscribed to the channel. It wasn't recent subscriber. It's not anymore, but
Wow.
for this episode.
Nice.
Wow. Very
Yep,
cool.
nice.
So
Also, where is
Cool.
Valerie standings wise? Technically, does that put her in number 20?
So what I assume, I actually don't know this for sure, but what I assume is Valerie would be number 19.
Okay.
And
Juliana
that's
would be
because
20?
Paige Pierce would be number 20.
Yep.
But then Juliana Corver is replacing Paige Pierce, so she would then drop to
Okay.
the bottom. And the same thing happens
That's
in
kind of
MPO.
that's kind of a good pick. I might switch to Valerie because if she's number
Yeah, so-
19, she's pretty damn
Well, she
good.
still has a 0-stroke advantage. It would be the same as 14.
Yeah, I know, but like I picked Lucky.
Oh,
sure.
I
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
know
that's a good
Valerie
point.
was in there
I didn't
either.
even see Valerie.
Yeah,
I
because
forgot
Valerie's
about her.
not technically
Okay.
on that list right there, but
She
I'm
has
just,
an
that's why I'm
auto bid.
No,
wondering.
she's there.
I'm gonna go to Valerie actually.
All right.
I'm
Good
gonna switch
pick.
it up to Valerie.
I'm still sticking with Sarah Hokum.
Okay.
Now, yeah, awesome. And to say one more thing, because I'm not 100% sure on this, but this is what I'm assuming based on last year's. I'm sure the players are aware. The media report might have said it, and I just didn't read it close enough. But my guess is that there's no playoffs for ties. It's done by seeding. So let's say that even with after the advantage, like Sarah Hokum starts at -1, Valerie Jenkins starts at even if Valerie Mandujano gets a stroke on Sarah Hokum and they both are in at that 8-9 spot and they're tied for 8th, it would go to Sarah Hokum because she is the better seed. That's how it's been in years past. I would assume that's what's sticking here. So Valerie Mandujano's in 19th. even if she tied Jennifer Allen, who's also at a 0 stroke advantage, it would go to Jennifer Allen. So she essentially has to get an extra stroke, which is tough. But of course, Valerie Van Houten is a great player, so I'm not doubting the pick. Just wanted to explain those rules.
Okay.
All right, over to MPO, and we're going to do somebody
lock it.
Oh,
who's winning? Chris and Tatar. Are we unanimous?
No, Ben's going to go someone else.
I'm going with Haley King.
I love that pick too, especially at Nevins, which is what she plays all the time right now. I think.
know. See, now you're like,
Lock. I'm just gonna cover my bases. It's like putting when you play roulette, putting it on the 0 and 00. I'm going on Scoggins.
Goodness, this guy.
I get two chances.
That's not betting 0 and double
That's
zero.
worse
That's
when you put it on 0 and
black.
00 and neither of them hit, because the likelihood of that is pretty rare.
All right. By the way, before we move to MPO, I'm just saying this last weekend's performance was pretty exciting. I wouldn't say boring at any level.
On MPO side, you would.
Yes, on MPO.
On FPO's a battle.
But this is to the point. Not to rehash it. It doesn't take away the credit, like the awesomeness of what Kyle did, the celebration, the satisfaction. But watching it, I was there.
The 2 putts on 18.
I was there, and I was like, oh, he's up by 8 or 9. Like, let's go on to something else. I'm like at the venue. Let's just go see what else is happening. Like, that's what it does. But like FPO was like, oh, baby, what's going to happen? Really cool. Okay. Anyways, so back to MPO.
Oh, baby.
MPO. Same thing. Top however many.
Top 8.
We're doing top 12 this time.
Top
So it goes
12.
down to Ezra Robinson. Although, note, like Ezra Robinson's 12, Alden Harris is 13. They both have the same stroke advantage. But again, I'm guessing that if they are tied, the benefit would go to Ezra Robinson.
So who's going to drop out of these
My
guys?
Anthony Barella. Anthony Barella.
Eagle McMahon.
I don't see Ezra Robinson for some reason. Oh,
He's
never
number
mind.
12.
He's in 12. Yeah, I skipped right over him. That was weird.
I'm going to go. I usually don't bet against somebody who's playing well, because that's funny when I get in here in a second. I'm going to go Kyle Klein. He's going to be on that major winning high. Got 30 G's in his pocket. He's going to be
He doesn't want to get the 40.
I don't know.
Dude,
I guess he does want to get 40.
70 grand. Jeez.
Well, that's
That'd
like
be
we were
insane.
joking after Worlds, like, oh, is Isaac going to have the Worlds hangover and stuff like that? But anyways, I said Eagle. Matt, you said AB.
Mm-hmm.
Evan, you said Kyle Klein. Ben?
I'll go Proctor. I feel like he's kind of been falling off towards the end of the season, and maybe it'll continue.
He's focusing on caddy duties, right?
Sure.
I say that like because he was killing it on bag duties for Evelina Salonen all week. Not to diminish his play, of course.
Oh, I thought he caddies for Ella. Probably
He switched.
He's probably a world-renowned caddy. I didn't realize.
Yeah, he was helping out
Yeah.
Evelina.
Yeah, I think he even was carrying both bags for a little bit for fun, but yeah, it was mainly Evelina. He was like coaching her up too, and just coaching her up as in like keeping things light and stuff like that, like general casual caddy stuff. All right, picking someone who's outside the top 12 who we think is going to make the cut.
Outside the top 12, we're not doing like 18 through 32 or 24 through 32, whatever. We're just picking outside the top 12.
I mean, we could. I was keeping it simple. I don't know. I don't make the rules.
No,
here.
yeah, we can do it. 13 through 32.
Yeah.
James Conrad.
Joel Freeman. Oh no, no, Chris Dickerson.
Yeah.
God, there's so many good players I could pick.
I was going to say
There
Aaron
are
Gossage.
So many good players.
Golly.
Yeah, and no, Paul Ubari is in. Parker Welk is also in, who's sitting.
But
in
we get, do we get
52nd
more
place.
points if we picked a player further down?
We'll
that's-
let Evan figure that out.
Because
Oh,
I feel
shoot, I
feel like Nick picking Chris Dickerson
That's what I
is
thought
way
was going to be the
easier
thing. Yeah.
than me picking James Conrad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we could just do like their
Well, I mean, realistically,
place,
it's only
but, like
one
that's how many
stroke
points
advantage.
you get is
Yes.
the place they are.
Sure.
So like
Yeah.
okay, Chris Dickerson sitting in 15th place, so you'd get 15 points if he makes the cut.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
And then, yeah, I don't know how it would work for the other way around. We'll talk about it afterwards.
We'll
and
figure it
bring
out
the
this
2.5 hour
structure
show so
in
far.
next-
Yeah.
This show is flying by still, though. This is crazy. I'm going with Corey Ellis.
I'm going with Bradley Williams, keeping the hot hand. You know, that's what
I'm
we should
going-
do in picks.
I'm going to go Joel Freeman. That's my actual pick.
Oh, you moved it back. Okay.
Yeah. And then who's winning?
Dude, I don't know why my gut's saying Simon.
Dude,
like, how weird is
same.
that?
I want to pick
But I'm
Simon
not
so
picking him.
bad.
I'm not picking him.
I kind of want to.
Man,
It's
I
so
kinda
tough to
wanted to
take.
say-
Like Ricky, for some reason, always shows up at this event too, and I'm like, is
Yeah.
Ricky gonna win it?
I'll go
say
Simon Lizotte before you guys do. Done.
In MPO, the only time that the number one player in the point standings has gone on to win is Ricky Wysocki, and it's both times he won the event.
Mm-hmm.
He's not number one in points this year.
Or do we have a Cinderella story this year?
I'm gonna go with this. Isaac Robinson wins and 100% cements his Player of the Year candidacy.
Yeah, I was gonna go Isaac Robinson too.
Can you scroll down the list a little bit, Matt?
Isaac Robinson for me. I think he came too close last year to not do it again.
And again, the interesting thing is like Isaac Robinson has a 5-stroke advantage, which is really 3 strokes over the cut line. That's a really nice advantage, which gives him a huge leg up to make the finals. But then he's still got to beat 12 players.
I'm gonna change mine.
Even playing field.
I'm gonna change mine. I'm feeling the energy. It's gonna be hootie hoo baby Matty-O. So I'm going Matty-O. I think he got it in the bag.
I want to pick Isaac or Simon, and I'm kind of tossing.
I was between
the two.
those, but you guys sold me on Simon.
You should go Ben's strategy and go Chris Dickerson.
All right. 5 more seconds of thinking. Ricky Wysocki.
Ricky.
No, I hate that pick, Simon.
We need
Simon.
Okay, never
Simon's
mind. But
my
we do
pick.
need the rights to the Ricky Wysocki song.
Yeah.
If he does win, we need to play it. That's all I ask.
100%.
That
Anyways.
is not even copyrighted.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in on this wonderful Monday night. This was episode 160% of Cosmic DG. Go check me out, cosmicdg.com, and also go check out disc golf pins, discology bags, all these different people that have made the Nick and Matt show for what it is. Tell someone, or excuse me, hold on. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on the video. Check us out. We have some cool YouTube videos dropping as well in the next month or so. Tell someone you love them this week. We'll catch you in the next one.
Do you know what episode you started asking people to tell someone you love them on?
I think 1.
Nope.
No.
And
2.
you know how I figured this out? Because I had a fan come up to me. I think his name was Mike, the guy who bought our pen, and he goes, trivia for the Nick and Matt show. I'm curious if you guys know, when did Nick say that? What episode? And I was like, within the first 3.
Within the first 7, I would assume.
So I don't remember which number it is now, but he was like, it's a trick. He goes, you guys interviewed Jomez in studio. He's like, but you had pre-recorded Hannah and Paul in studio. And that's when you said it, but it was released after Jomez.
Oh,
and I'm like, we've got crazy fans out there.
That was well into the show then.
Man.
I don't know. I thought I started that at the
early.
beginning, but
anyways,
I took it from someone else.
Tell
It's not
someone
my
you love
thing.
them.
Tell someone
Wait,
you love them
why
this
would you
week.
reveal that?
Everyone
I didn't
knows
know
it.
my life is a lie.
Everyone knows it.
I didn't know that.
I've said it before. Tim the Tabman says it at the end of every single one of his YouTube videos.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Ben, you're awesome. Nick, you're awesome. Evan, you're awesome.
Does Ninja say that?
Peace
You
out.
didn't tell me?
Peace
Oh
out.
my goodness.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or join the conversation live on YouTube.